Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Culture War Debate Podcast Live. This is our first pilot. We got a live studio audience for everybody who's watching at home. We're going to be bringing them up. I encourage heckling, booing, and jeering.
Are they using a mic in the audience to record this? That's not that microphone. That's not the mic's feed. Christine Lamb, thank you for the AED $199.99. What the country is that? United Arab Emirates. Aha, my Emirati. What up?
Okay. Which is probably bad news for our friend Pisco.
Yeah.
But it's going to be fun. But we do have some serious issues to debate. And the question of today is... Was the deportation of Kilmar Abrego Garcia just or unjust? And should the Trump administration bring him back to this country? And with that being said... I would like to throw it first to the gentleman to my right. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Pisco. I'm a lawyer. I argue on the internet from a left-wing perspective, and I think it's obvious that it was unjust. It was illegal. All right. One of the big problems that conservatives cite with immigration is the fact that it's illegal in the first place. Okay. So if you have a problem with illegal immigration on the basis of its illegality, surely you should have a problem with deporting people illegally.
Wrong, dipshit, because two wrongs do make a right. Oh, crucial mistake.
Unless you think it was the right thing to do to break the law. Do you think it was the right thing to do to break the law? I'll ask the audience right now.
How the fuck is Trump signing trade deals with permanent 10% tariffs based on a national emergency? Good question. And who knows? We gotta wait for Congress to do something, or we have to wait for a judge or somebody with standing to sue them and get the tariffs removed. I don't even know how the fuck that would work. I don't even know who would have standing there as being harmed by the U.S. government. I doubt you can sue the U.S. government for a terror. I don't even know if you could do that. Yeah.
To break the law. Do you think it was the right thing to do to
California
break the law?
sued them?
I'll ask the audience right now. So that's just a collective. I want everyone to notice. You all said you're fine when Trump breaks the law. He admits that he broke the law, and you're cool with it. And they admit that it was against the law to do so, and they promised they're going to do it to U.S. citizens too. You think he's just joking? You think it won't affect you? They've already arrested U.S. citizens, for 10 days without due process. They're lying about where he was near the border. They've deported U.S. children who have cancer. So don't think this won't affect you. And notice what you all just did. You all just said, yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's just for someone to be deported illegally. Deported illegally.
All right.
So basically, and just to finish off, if you're willing to say that, you're willing to say that you want Trump to be a king.
Yes.
That you want him to be a tyrannical fascist.
Yep.
And I would ask you to look yourself in the mirror and really, take a hard look. Is that what you want this country to be?
For 24
All right.
hours. For 24 hours, yes.
We also have, with his opening statement and introduction, this gentleman here.
Yeah. Nice to see you all. I'm Will Chamberlain, Senior Counsel at the Article 3 Project.
All right.
So I think there are, three core reasons that the outcome here is substantively just. The first is that had the Trump administration...
Wait, this is Will Chamberlain? What? So what the fuck is this charlatan's background? These fucking dipshits. Is he at least... Damn. This guy's changed a lot in appearance. Yes. Senior counsel to the Internet Accountability Project. Who's also, okay. Before that, he was an associate at Quinn, Emmanuel Ugerhart and Sullivan LLP in Los Angeles, where he practiced complex commercial litigation. Graduated from the University of the Pacific in 2010. Are these real school? University of the Pacific? Damn. Okay, never. Not that means anything. It might be a really good law school. I've just never heard of that before. University of the Pacific in 2010 with a BA in Econ and received his JD from Georgetown University Law Center. Georgetown is considered a good law school, right? Yes. Okay, quite good. I don't want to dox him, but Pisco's is quite a bit better. But still good. That's still a good law school. Okay, active member of the State Bar of California and the District of Columbia Bar. Okay, so also lawyer guy. Not that that literally means anything, but at least we have that. Okay.
administration gone through the normal project. So I think there are, three core reasons that the outcome here is substantively just. The first is that had the Trump administration gone through the normal process to lift a withholding of removal, this guy would have been removed 100% of the time for two.
What a horribly fucking stupid. Okay, so we're off to a poor start. So if they would have gone through the legal process, they would have won anyway. Okay, then why not just go through the legal process?
Core reasons. First, he was found to be a member of MS-13 and earlier.
Oh my God, we're in sublists. He was adjudicated as such. That wasn't like a criminal charge or conviction. It's not like beyond a reasonable doubt they assessed that he was a gang member, but okay, we can run these shitty arguments down again.
Court proceedings. Once that finding was found and upheld on appeal, he would be a stop from...
Upheld on appeal? Again, I don't know what the formal name is for this fallacy. I thought we all learned this in English class. I don't know how to state this succinctly, but there is a, I guess in legal terms you would call it a holding from a case. There's like an important core substantive holding that carries from one case to the next. Okay, a guy comes in convicted of murder, ends up shooting and killing a baby boy. Not a baby boy, shoots and kills a woman, and inside the woman is a 7-month-old fetus, and that fetus is a baby boy, and the judge, declares, okay, yeah, this fine, this counts as double homicide, double murder, whatever. They do all this. Imagine somebody in the future like cites this case or whatever, and they're like, somebody cites this case or something, and they cite the case as like, the courts ruled that scientifically life begins at 7 months or some bullshit like that, right? Like that. That wasn't part of like what the court was necessarily ruling on. That wasn't the major fact brought before them that they were there to analyze. I don't know how to tell people that there are parts of like an article that you can quote, and there are parts of an article that you wouldn't quote because it depends on what the particular thing is about. Does this not make sense? I can't, because so many people violate this rule. I don't understand how so many people abuse this, and I can't tell if it's intentional or not. Even Supreme Court justices do this. They abuse this. Are you talking about dicta? I am talking about, I think I am talking about dicta, yes. Dicta is opposite the holding, right? Dicta is just like random shit that they say, and then the holding is like the important part, right? Now, apparently people will argue what is dicta versus non-dicta or whatever, but I'm trying to think like, yeah, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, if I was, Nature article, fetus, okay, I can't read this whole article, but pregnancy's true toll on the body. Huge birth study paints most detailed picture yet. Biologists have built up one of the most detailed pictures ever of the changes that occur in women's bodies before and after pregnancy by pooling and studying around 44 million physiological measurements from more than 300,000 births. So it sounds like the article, the substance of this article is about how pregnancy affects the body. But imagine if I was writing an argumentative essay, and in my essay I wanted to argue that cameras today are more detailed than they've ever been before. For instance, biologists can take more detailed pictures today than they've ever taken in the history of all of whatever. And then I cite this article. This article is not about cameras or about camera tech. I don't know if Celeste Biever knows anything about camera technology. That's not what the primary focus of this article is on, even though that would be a true statement that I could directly cite from here. It's not really what this article is about. It wouldn't be a good citation. I don't know how to make people understand that. People do this so much, and it's so annoying. I'm sorry, I hate that. The judges and all them, when Abrego Garcia or whatever, I think was being, when they figured out if they could issue a temporary holding or a holding against being removed or whatever, it wasn't like he was being charged with the crime of being in a gang, and now, beyond a reasonable doubt, we're going to fight on whether or not he's in a gang, and the state's going to prove that, right, as part of this criminal trial. That's not what was at stake in any of that. So because that wasn't at stake, you can't just cite to that and pretend like this was a beyond criminal doubt, or this was like a conviction or something that was hardcore adjudicated on, because if that was the case, my guess is they probably would have fought it a lot more in the past, you know? Like, like probably in some, this doesn't hold cleanly because my case is civil, but like I'm sure in some civil filing, and because Pixie's lawyers misspell everything because they're constantly having strokes and seizures over there. They like if they spelled my name wrong in one of them, I think they put Bonnell with one N or whatever. If somebody in the future goes to write like some kind of receipt for some arms dealer and the last name is Bonnell, and then somebody, you know, cites my case with Pixie the Future and they're like, well, Stephen Bonnell, we know that he goes by two names. He goes by Bonnell and Bonnell. And we can tell that because it was ruled that way. And when it's like, excuse me, no, it wasn't. That was a minor part of the filing. If I would have known, if that would have been the primary holding, if that would have been like the substantive issue, then we would have gone way more into that. I don't know how many. I need to think of a snappier way to make this. I hope you guys understand me. Destiny, wouldn't it be cited as an example for uses of new cameras? Potentially, yes. What Clover the horse said. You could potentially cite that article maybe as like, here's examples in how new cameras are being used. Although even at that, I would be careful because that article wasn't specifically about cameras. And it could have just been that they have more detailed pictures because of, maybe because of a medical advancement. It might be the case that camera technology hasn't improved or it's stagnated, or it might be the case that they found a way that they could induce, some kind of sleep shit in the fetus, which makes it hold still longer, which gives them the ability to take a better picture, and that's why they have higher quality images, right? So but you don't. That's what I'm saying. You got to be really, really, really careful when you're quoting an article for a thing that's not the primary subject of the article. Somebody keeps saying it's called the fallacy of incomplete evidence, aka cherry picking. I don't like to call it cherry picking because it's more insidious than that. It's different. It's not just cherry picking. It's quoting something that's entirely true, but it's not really what the thing is about. Yeah.
Once that finding was found and upheld on appeal, he would be stopped from challenging that.
Like what he's saying right here, found and held on appeal. What, appealed that he was part of a gang? That wasn't the case. What the case was about? Like,
now that Trump has designated the guy as MS-13 to be a foreign terrorist organization, he's not eligible for withholding of removal anymore, so he'd simply have lost no matter what. And the second reason is that in the interim,
at the risk of getting yelled at, what kind of AR did you end up getting? Why would you ever get yelled at for asking a gun question here? I'm embarrassed because I don't know how to say the name of the company though, so I sound like a retard when I say it. I think it's Giesel. Giesel. It's an AR-15 from Giesel. 14.5-inch barrel, I think with a 1.5-inch muzzle to weld it onto the end.
Between the time he got this withholding of removal and now, the 18th Street gang, which supposedly threatened his mother's pupusa shop, a preposterous story from the outset. So between the time he got this withholding of removal and now, the 18th Street gang, which supposedly threatened his mother's pupusa shop, a preposterous story from the outset. That 18th Street gang is no longer effective in El Salvador, which was the basis for his supposed fear of persecution, which is why the withholding of removal was granted in the first place. So the outcome wouldn't have changed. This is what we would call, to analogize, harmless error. The second reason it's substantively just is because the guy's a wife-beating MS-13 gangbanger.
Yeah.
Okay, so this guy is an actual fucking retard. God, I hate these people. Oh. Could you explain the MS-13 finding case in short for people who aren't following? What was determined about Garcia? Somebody would have to link it. We have to go through it. I skimmed this a long time ago, but I think it dealt with him advocating for why he couldn't be removed back to El Salvador. But I don't remember all the details. Somebody have to link it. We'd have to go through it. But he wasn't like criminally charged with being in a gang.
And who exploited our laws for 14 years. And in fact, the more that comes out about the guy, you're realizing, just what kind of person he is, threatening his wife and children, telling them that, you can't leave me because I'll kill you. Funny thing, I was reading a book about MS-13 and a different...
There's that saying, he's pounding the table right now, right? The meme saying is when I think the meme lawyer saying is when the law is on your side, pound the law. When the facts are on your side, pound the facts, and when neither are on your side, pound the table. This is neither law nor facts. He was a wife beater, because she had a restraining order one time, but this was years ago. They're still together. Seems like they're fine. She's not dead. She's not walking in with marks all over her body. I don't know where we're getting that from. So that doesn't seem to be relevant at all here. This is just, whenever you see somebody engaged in this type of behavior, it's because they don't have anything else. right? When your strongest advocates on the other side are just engaged in these like weird ad homs or things that aren't central to what is being discussed, then you know it's because they have nothing else to go on.
Like, just what kind of person he is, threatening his wife and children, telling them that, like, you can't leave me because I'll kill you. Funny thing, I was reading a book about MS-13, and a different MS-13 game banger did the same thing about a girlfriend he was dating. There's this
Like, what does that have to do with anything?
sort of an underlying entitlement. But, you know, substantively, just obviously a very bad dude, a human trafficker, the kind of person who drives people, you know, from Texas to Maryland who don't have any luggage. Do you think those people have free will? No, those are captives. And, you know, we can get more into that later.
And we will. There's one more man joining us tonight to make sure that there's a little bit of chaos and humor.
Yes. Well, it's Primetime 99, and I just want to say, you know, Pisco, you are very smart, but you're still a libtard. And, but no, I agree. I actually agree with you on this,
dude.
because listen, whether it was unjust or not, we got the outcome that we want. His big booty Latina is staying in the country, and we need to do this as, you know, a lesson to these other gangbangers and Trinidad Arruga adjacent people that
It is the most disgusting type of shit. Okay? Like, if you're an incel MAGA dude online who's so fucking ass-pained that women don't want to touch you with a fucking 10-yard stick because you've got your proud, like, MAGA, I voted for Trump, okay? And the only thing you can find are 40-year-old overweight moms with 3 different baby daddies, and you're like, oh, why does everybody hate? It's because you laugh at things like this. This is the #1 incel magnet, like, women repellent, like, laughing at, like, these types of, like, the most disgusting fucking comments. Like, this woman, and they have a family as well, right? I think they have a child. Her husband is being deported, and you're making sexual comments about her. Like, it is the most unhinged, especially from the type of guy who basically killed his mom and then made fucking footage off of it because he told his dipshit mom not to get fucking vaccinated and watched her choke to death in her own fucking fluid in a hospital bed. It's just the most unhinged type of shit you can ever fucking do. It's so disgusting.
as, you know, a lesson to these other gangbangers and Trinidad Arruga adjacent people that if you come to our country and, you know, you bring your big booty Latina, we're going to kick your ass out and keep her. So
well,
I think...
Alex, the Latina in question is a U.S. citizen.
I know, but still, she's still a big booty Latina. I'm saying it doesn't matter.
I mean, if the goal is to protect the U.S. citizen Latina from the predations of the MS-13 gangbanger...
I'm saying protect even illegal or legal big booty Latinas. They carry the same weight in my eyes. So I guess not apparently to you. So I'm saying, yeah, she's a legal big booty Latina, but he learned his lesson. They don't get to go back to El Salvador or wherever you get kicked off to.
And that's exactly why Alex is here.
Yes.
But we are going to be bringing up members of the audience, people who have submitted who want to join this debate, and give you guys a chance to have your thoughts heard on this matter. But I suppose the question...
I think the appeal argument is bad because it wasn't an Article 3 judge, but immigration judge. If a judge finds that I'm a member of a gang so I can be deported, isn't that a good citation? If it was like central to the thing, there's just... The thing that's like centrally being evaluated and for what purpose is just, it's really important at all stages because it's going to inform the way that you react to stuff, the way that you fight stuff, the stuff that you fight for, and then how people should view those past decisions. Let me ground this out in an example, okay? Let's say that somebody, fuck me. Let any tort, okay? Somebody accuses me civilly of something, okay? Example. And let's say that there's like a question about, well, fuck, actually, we can ground this out in a super real example. Somebody accuses you of something, and they, so tort is civil cases, right? Somebody wants to sue you for something. And then let's say somebody does that, and let's say that there's a contentious issue relating to, we'll say a Discord log, okay, some type of chat program. Maybe it's the case that, well, if it's a civil case and two people have a disagreement over whatever, you know, maybe you have screenshots, maybe you don't, maybe whatever, you just don't care that much, right? And let's say you go to court and you lose your civil case and it's like, okay, well, I lost, and then you have to pay the other party $10,000, like, okay, whatever, that sucks, okay. If people in the future go back and they go, oh, weren't you convicted of a crime? It's like, no, hold on, that was a civil case. I was not convicted of anything. And you might say, well, hold on, that civil case was about the thing that guy said you were convicted of, right? It's like, yes, but the forum that they were in there was for a civil case. If it had been a criminal case from the start, maybe when there was some contention over like images on Discord, maybe the approach would have been a lot different. It's like, hold on, well, this is a criminal case, so now my freedom is at stake. You might send subpoenas to Discord to pull information. You might start contacting friends, family members, other people. It's like, does anybody else have a screenshot? Does anybody else see this? You might bring on witnesses to testify to seeing conversation. You might approach that way differently, such that maybe you would have even won the civil case if you would have taken it more seriously. That's all I'm saying, is that if you've got like an Article 3 judge or immigration judge, or you're adjudicating based on whether or not this guy's in a gang or not, that's a much different thing than saying, you're going to be deported from this country if you are a gang member. Like, if that was at stake, there might have been a different approach to dealing with that 5 years ago when the guy was, when the judge was just like, yeah, this guy's probably a gang member, so blah, 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 you know? That's what I'm saying. I don't know if that makes sense.
To kick it off, simply, to either of you.
Somebody said also it was a second or third hand hearsay at a bond hearing. There was no cross, no discovery, etc. My understanding is it wouldn't be given any deference in any other related trial. Collateral estoppel requires that things are litigated. It can't just be something claimed at some point. Oh, sure. Okay, yeah, that would be too. Oh, yeah, because this was from an informant or something. And the informant, it was like hearsay from an informant. Yeah. Remember, hearsay is bad. Hearsay is bad because you can't introduce an unquestionable set of secret facts, right? I know that Stephen is a murderer because John told me that he saw Stephen murder Jane. And it's like, hold on. Well, I want to cross-examine you. What did John say? John said that you murdered Jane. Okay, did John really say that? Yeah. Okay, well, fuck me, I guess, right? I need to bring John in. I need to ask John questions. I don't care what you say John said. This hearsay. He heard him, and then he's saying it. He heard him say it, and he's saying it back to me. That's bullshit. I need to be able to bring in John because I have a right to confront my accuser so that I can question him. I can perform my own examination or cross-examination so that a jury can hear me. You know, I can assess his character. I can assess the validity of what he's saying, right? That's important. That's, yeah. But I don't believe any of that was even available to him. But it wouldn't need to be available to him at that particular bond hearing as well, so. Okay.
Who wants to start? Was the deportation just or unjust?
It was unjust. It was illegal. Do you think that doing
Those aren't synonyms.
But so
Those don't mean the same
I
thing.
understand that, but in this context, do you think it was just for the Trump administration to do an illegal deportation? Yes or no?
I mean, in these circumstances, the outcome was just.
I'm asking if the deportation, if you think.
Well, I mean, it was mistaken, so
Well,
they conceded that it's a mistake, right?
So was it just to do a mistaken illegal deportation?
I mean, the actual substantive outcome here is a just outcome.
No,
it's like, I don't want the administration.
Whether the outcome was just or not, is
Right.
the action, the mistaken, in your words, mistaken illegal deportation just or not?
It's mildly unjust. I actually.
So
will concede
you
that.
actually
Mildly unjust?
The resolution be
You
looked at.
actually agree that it was unjust, to be clear. Everyone here agrees it was.
Wait, hold
to be
on.
clear,
The resolution be
you
looked at.
deportation just or not?
It's mildly unjust. I actually. will
So
concede
you
that. There's a
actually it's mistaken illegal deportation just or not?
It's mildly unjust. I actually.
So
will
Wait,
concede
what
is-
the
hold on.
outcome. It's like, I don't want the administration.
Whether the outcome was just or not is the
And it's so queer and so bizarre, especially for a lawyer to be outcome oriented like this. Like, motherfucker, if we only cared about outcomes, your entire profession wouldn't exist. We would all just go in front of a judge and scream at each other all day. The process is essential to beg, even if the outcome is correct. Like, what is it a Brady violation where if a prosecutor doesn't make available to the defense some essential evidence that they could use to formulate a different theory for their case or whatever, or that could be relevant to their defense? I think it's a Brady violation, right? Where the case can get completely thrown out. That's what we saw happen with, fuck. I want to say Alex Stein. It's not Alex Stein. The guy that shot the girl. Fuck. Say the name. All the Trumples hate him. Alec Baldwin. Thank you. Yeah, or with people like OJ, right? If police are fucking with the evidence or chain of custody or whatever, even if you have the quote-unquote right outcome, it can get tossed if you're not following the correct procedure. And the reason why, like, a lot of people think that, well, oh my God, it's just the procedure. Oh, I see this a lot. People are like, oh, they got off on a technicality. No, those technicalities are important. They're technicalities because they're part of the set of rules and people are playing within that set of rules. And if you break some rules to get a quote unquote good outcome, well, if the other party knew that they didn't have to play by those set of rules, there might be a totally different outcome. They might have done things way differently, right?
Right.
the action, the mistaken, in your words, mistaken illegal deportation just or not?
It's mildly unjust. I actually.
So
will concede
you
that. There's a
actually
reason
agree.
I
So to be
had
clear,
the resolution be
you
looked at.
actually agree that it was unjust. To be clear, everyone here agrees it was unjust.
No.
Well, okay. So Tim, do you think that the deportation was just to do an illegal action?
See, what you're doing right there is I'm just going to say, that's not debating. To load the question with, I presume it was illegal first, now answer.
Do you agree it was illegal?
When did you start beating your wife?
Well,
This is such a stupid fucking. I don't know what the point is of this. I guess this is like the retard's way of trying to pretend like you're sneaking in some assumption. When did you beat your wife? Like, if you fuck up and answer that question and say last week, what the fuck? You would just say like, I don't beat my wife. If somebody says, do you think this unjust deportation was okay? And you disagree that it was unjust, and you say, I don't think it was unjust, then you just say that. How are you getting tricked into answering the question? And they just went through the Trump administration, or at least the litigator representing the Trump administration. The attorney himself said that it was a mistake. So,
did you agree it was illegal? What's loaded about that?
So the issue is it a crime to make a mistake?
Not a crime. Was it illegal? Was it illegal? Yes or no?
No.
9 justices on the Supreme Court unanimously, Will and I, both lawyers, will tell you it was illegal. Will, it was obviously illegal.
No, it was an illegal deportation.
It was an illegal deportation.
So hold on. You're saying that it was illegal because the Supreme Court said it was?
No.
It's emphatically the province and duty of the judicial department to say what the law is. That's Marbury.
Does the Alien Enemies Act supersede?
He wasn't sued under the Alien Enemies Act. Or wasn't deported under the Alien Enemies Act.
Stephen Miller claims he was.
No, he absolutely wasn't. He's not a Venezuelan. The proclamation for the Alien Enemies Act only applies to Venezuelans.
Is that true?
Yes, that's true.
Say again.
Does the Alien Enemies Act apply to El Salvador?
The proclamation
Or
issued by the
MS-13?
president.
The Alien Enemies Act only works against enemies of the United States, and I believe that enemies of the United States are defined as nationals belonging to countries that we are currently at war with. It only applies to people of Venezuelan nationality. So yes, the Alien Enemies Act can only be used to deport Venezuelans. That's it.
Only to Tren de Aragua members who are Venezuelans. By its terms, the proclamation by its terms, even assuming it were legal, would not apply to them.
Yeah, this is not an Alien Enemies Act question.
So the question is, do you agree it was illegal?
If the argument is the Supreme Court said it was illegal and that's your basis for it, then I agree with you, yes.
Okay. Do you agree with the president or the executive
The thing is, everybody agrees it's illegal.
Well, he just... Wait.
What? Where are we at in this debate? Okay, yeah, obviously. Oh, well, if you just want to sit here and argue over whether or not it was illegal or not, okay, yeah, duh, I guess. Yeah, it was illegal. Oh, okay, well, Pisco should just drop the mic and just fucking run away.
To be clear.
No, I believe it was an
for a while
administrative
said it
error. And the issue is we're talking about the semantics of what it
Administrative error. Like, look at how minor it is. Look at how minor it is when it's like, yeah, he got deported. It was just an administrative error. Shit happens.
means to be illegal, right? So is it illegal to smoke pot? Yes. Is it unjust? No. People can smoke pot if they fucking want to.
So that's why I'm asking you, first, if it's illegal. Now you agree it is illegal. Fair, right?
In the context of which, so the first thing I was trying to do was understand your view and how you're viewing what illegal means. You're saying, as a subject of law, as the Supreme Court has ruled it, we all agree the Supreme Court did in fact say it was illegal.
Correct.
Agreed.
Okay, so if it's the case that you think that this deportation was illegal, do you think it was just for the Trump administration to do an illegal deportation?
Yes.
Okay.
Just like I think it's just for someone to smoke pot.
Okay, so if they did the same thing to a U.S. citizen, though, obviously you'd think it's unjust.
Yes.
Okay. If they killed Kilmar Abrego Garcia, would you think it's unjust?
Yes.
Why's that?
Killing.
Can he bring this up? Is he going to mention Obama? He wants to so badly. He wants to so badly.
Garcia, would you think it's unjust?
Yes.
Why's that?
Killing people is one of the worst crimes, in fact.
Okay, so
He did. Obama killed 4 American citizens.
There we go. There it is.
You thought that was wrong, right?
Absolutely.
So then so if it's the case that you thought that was wrong, wouldn't it be wrong, for example, to put Kilmar Abrego Garcia in prison for the rest of his life without an opportunity to have a case?
No.
Okay.
You see, so let me try this real quick. You're trying to equate, say, Barack Obama, right? He extrajudicially assassinated a 16-year-old kid without charge or trial. I mean, if a dude cracks a grandma over the head with a baseball bat and kills her, I say lock that guy up. If a guy accidentally runs a woman over, then we say there could be negligent homicide. There's degrees of whether the crime is bad. Is it justice in some circumstances and not when a crime is... Not all crimes are solved in the same way.
I'm not alleging that it's a crime.
They not all rise to the same level of retaliation.
I'm not alleging that it's a crime. I'm saying it's illegal, and the Supreme Court found that. And right now, what we have, this is what the Trump cult does to you. This is what the Trump cult does to you.
What's with the ad hominem?
So this is what it does to you.
It's
You
a
are
cult.
defending
It's a cult.
an illegal deportation of a human being who has the right to have his case heard. The basic essence of due process.
Funny thing
And if
is
you
he actually-
if you
I mean,
deny it of anybody, it will be denied of you in the course of time.
No, it won't. He's not a citizen.
So if
And
you're
he was
deported,
previously adjudicated as an MS-13 gang
that's
member.
false. And you brought it too.
No, it's not.
The strongest argument, I think, that should be brought out every single time, in my opinion, when you say he's not a citizen, the strongest argument that can be brought out is like, okay, and I feel like you should force an answer on this. Did Trump or did he not sign an executive order trying to rescind birthright citizenship? Because if he did, then why would you assume naturalized citizens are safe? Clearly, the administration has at least signaled that they have an appetite for being able to deport naturalized citizens. What about the children of naturalized citizens? Like, you're in such murky waters at this point. To be able to say like, well, fine, they're just provoking due process for some people, not like, how do you know where that's going to stop, my dude?
So
There was a finding that he was an MS-13.
No, so
Absolutely.
you brought up collateral estoppel, didn't you?
Yeah.
So-
He'll be
so-
stopped from challenging it.
So of course not. So of course not. So this.
Members beat his wife.
So-
What are you talking about?
I know because I have to say a lot of these lawyers like file shipwrecked, and they get shipwrecked as a lawyer, and it's garbage. And the truth is there is no collateral estoppel here. What is the finding
know what that
that the
means.
bond court hearing made?
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. I have a question.
Yeah.
If someone does something illegal, is that just or unjust?
Depends on the thing.
Sometimes unjust, sometimes just. It depends.
If someone does something illegal, should they always be held under? No. Okay, so we agree that the real question here is not whether it's just or unjust, whether we think the penalty should be severe or not.
No. So I agree. Not all illegal things are unjust. I'm asking, in this case, is this illegal action by the Trump administration just or unjust? And you said it was just for the
Indeed.
Trump administration to do an illegal deportation.
Now,
and
hold
I'm
on.
going to ask you
My
why.
friend.
I'm going to ask you why.
Right. Let me answer that. So the first thing I got to say is you keep loading this as though illegal is the pretext by which something would be just or unjust, which is why I asked you, is if something is illegal, is it just or unjust?
It can
Sometimes
be.
not.
It depends.
Then you don't need to say, am I okay? Why am I okay with Trump doing something illegal? The question is the deportation.
No, I do need it because I think as a standard, right, there's a threshold here that in the main, when the government does something illegal, we're going to presume it's unjust unless you can reach some threshold. Well, think about it, right? So if this can't just be a game of we let the government do whatever we want to people we don't like. We're fearful of the government wielding power in the main because of structural reasons. There's a reason. There's a reason. For example, you believe that someone who's accused, for example,
Like, imagine how weird and cucked this is right now, that Pisco is up here as a lib cuck arguing against a bunch of people who are arguing in favor of an authoritarian dictator state that arguably were born from the Tea Party that was ostensibly a libertarian movement within the Republican Party. Like, how fucking weird is that? Jesus.
of should be given a trial, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Why is it that? Why do you think that someone who's so horrific, and if everyone agrees that this person, why should we give them a trial?
An American citizen gets a trial.
What about an illegal alien?
They don't.
So you don't think? So just to be clear, this is where we're at now. You don't think that crimes that are committed in this country by illegal immigrants that they should have trials for those crimes?
The penalty.
Well, no, we do have. Wait. To be honest, we do have trials for.
Hold on. So the penalty for an illegal immigrant typically is for most who cross within 2 years is expedited removal. That means their due process is an immigration officer will determine whether or not they're here legally or illegally.
That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about crimes. We're talking about crimes.
And yeah, so when we get someone here who like or murder somebody, why are we going to spend taxpayer dollars when the outcome is going to be you get sent out of the country?
Pisco, the response to this is incredibly simple. You're like, even Tim hasn't thought. I don't know how these people have shows and think about politics all day and they don't even survive like level 1 questions. Like, okay, so hold on. Tim, you're saying we shouldn't waste money having trials because we'll just get deported. So if an illegal immigrant comes to the United States and then rapes and murders 100 children, then the punishment for them would just be deporting them back to whatever country? Really? We would have no criminal trials for people that commit crimes against U.S. citizens on U.S. soil? Really? That's your advocation for? He would immediately back off this. He's like, okay, well, hold on. Okay, fine. Maybe for some crimes we would try, right? Like, it's such a stupid point.
What happens?
Tim, so actually, a lot of times, we deal with this. We want them to be prosecuted so that they actually face a punishment instead of getting deported.
Yes.
So we actually spend a lot of taxpayer resources.
Wow, good job. The fucking Dumb and Dumber. Okay, figuring out, well, hold on. Actually, wait, that might actually be really fucking retarded.
On prosecuting illegal immigrants, at least in Texas.
I just want to dwell here for a second. The Constitution says that persons in this country get trials if they are accused of a crime before they're punished. No, it does not say that. You can read the Constitution.
Let's clarify the fact. Does it say citizens or persons?
So for example, there's different parts of
let me ask you this, though. In the case of Abrego Garcia, do you think that is a sweeping policy that's being used to deport mass amount of people? Or is this
a sweeping policy?
Well, I'm just saying the pretext that we use to deport Abrego Garcia, I'm saying, do you think that is being used right now to deport a massive amount of people, or is this an isolated incident in your opinion?
I don't think it's an isolated incident. I don't think it's relevant to the question presented, which has to do with this. But I will answer it.
Well, I'm just saying, few, when you make an omelet, a few eggs are going to get, cracked. I'm just saying it sucks how it is.
Just bite the bullet and say, yes, it was unjust, of course.
Yeah, this is a stupid argument because there is a world where we can accept that, okay? Because everybody will make mistakes, fine. But you're not saying, the problem is you're not saying that it was a mistake. You're saying that it was necessary and that it was good and it shouldn't be rescinded. If you have to, even if you say crack a few eggs to make an omelet, that's not really a good analogy, although it's a popular saying because you have to crack eggs to make an omelet. If you made a mess while creating something, you clean the mess up. You don't leave the mess there and say that was the original intent. That's the issue here, right?
So it's unjust. We don't want the government in the main unless there's exceedingly crazy circumstances to violate the Constitution, right?
Real quick, but do you think it's going to be used in a massive way? Or
it already is. It already
is. But who else? What other examples do we have? I know you used to talk about the cancer girl, but they actually were allowed to stay. So when leftists say that they were forced to leave, they chose to go with their family. They were 100% allowed to stay in America, so we didn't deport a cancer person.
If you guys are stuck in your echo chambers, and again, I think that there's some of that going on here.
Insult the audience like that.
So if it's that case, then you wouldn't know, for example, that this U.S. citizen, there's a parent here. There's an opportunity that people have basic due process rights to see if, an aunt wants to care for the U.S. citizen, or another parent has parental rights and the right to have custody over the parent or the child.
In the instance you're referring to, the mother requested the child.
I don't know which case. There are multiple cases of U.S.
There's
deportation. One of which the mother denies that's what the outcome that she wanted. But regardless, the policy that we're talking about is with respect to people who are not citizens here. And you asked if it's like a mass policy. They're already by the Supreme Court again unanimously saying that these people are entitled to due process. You guys don't think that. You guys don't think that there should be due process.
I don't think that's.
Everyone thinks they're entitled to due process. The question is what process is due, and it's extraordinarily limited in the context of legal immigration.
But Tim just said, even in the context of criminal. So Tim just said.
What are these retards
in the context of a
screaming
criminal
in the
indictment
background?
that there should not be trials for people who are here illegally. You don't agree with that?
No, I don't.
Hold on. This is a really good example for media literacy. What he did is he is falsely framing the arguments, redirecting it. What I'm saying is, there is no trial required for a crime committed by an illegal immigrant because they'll get an expedited removal before a trial can take place.
You're conflating.
Go back to what Alex was saying. Tim, you don't agree with this statement. Tim, there's no world where you would be okay with somebody committing some crazy, horrific crime in the U.S. and just getting a free deportation back to another country. You would never agree with that. It's a literal get-out-of-jail-free card. What the fuck?
An immigration hearing which is civil, and I agree, there's no... So you guys, don't get confused, all right? I'm going to teach you something.
I'm not conflating anything.
Immigration law and a removal proceeding is not a criminal matter, okay? That's different than the criminal proceeding.
That's true,
yes, I agree. You don't need trials. That's why J.D. Vance is full of shit when he says that we need trials.
I got to stop you. You are actually making a mistake. I am aware you are asking for a criminal trial for, let's say, an illegal immigrant who committed a murder. Mm-hmm. I am arguing that we will deport that person back to their home country, and then we're not going to hold a trial for him after the fact.
So wait. So you're going to let You're going to take a murderer who committed a crime in this country.
Thank you.
You're not going to subject him to punishment in this country, and you're going to send the murderer back to El Salvador just so he can cross the border again and murder someone?
Well, that's why Trump has CCOT, doesn't
Oh my God. That's why Trump has CCOT. So then every single person that's deported is going to get deported to El Salvador's prison of fucking labor camps? Like what? What? Okay.
he?
Well, hang on. That wasn't embedded in your hypothetical there, that he would go to CCOT.
You presented information to the argument that was not previously included in it.
Which was
the
what?
argument is an illegal immigrant here gets deported first.
Are they deporting everybody to CCOT or just Alien Enemies Act? Oh no, it's anybody that they want, I guess. How do they even decide who goes to El Salvador?
Before he goes to trial for murder? Come on, guys.
How do
He
you
should
have
go
a
to trial for
criminal
murder.
trial for someone who's not in the country?
Wait, so we do, this is high priority for our government to spend money on trials protecting U.S. citizens, and it's one of the, our common things as a turn. Guess what?
Actually, hold on. Let me give a hypothetical to Tim, real quick, though, Tim. This is where I think you're wrong. I'm sorry. So, would you have rather had Laken Riley's murderer just deported, or are you happy that they had a trial and got convicted?
Deported.
That's crazy. So you trust Bukele? You trust this
I
El
disagree with
Salvadorian
that.
guy?
Yeah.
Wait. Just to be clear, you trust
I'm
trust
happy
El
that he's getting
Salvador to keep
punished.
this guy in jail? This guy committed a crime on U.S. soil, and you trust El Salvador? You trust El Salvador? Yeah. Here's the problem. What happens if Bukele decides this guy goes free? What happens if they overthrow Bukele?
I got it, guys. I figured it out. We secure our border.
What are these stupid fucking signs they're holding up? What do these mean? Oh my God. Do you hold them up when you agree with the guy who says it? Or like, does Tim have a 20?
In this country, there's justice for crimes, and what you're talking about isn't justice. It's for the purposes of expediting something, but it's not true justice. For example,
I actually disagree with you. I think what you're saying isn't justice.
Oh my God.
Because what you are doing is creating a defense for people who had no right to be here in the first place, so that taxpayers have to spend money on someone who's not going to be here after this. And if you look at the case of Abrego Garcia, this guy. What was the due process that was failed? He was supposed to get what's called a USCIS official interview.
False.
To make it, this is under the law. This is actually the
You're
codified
wrong.
law.
It's
it's in the law.
Why is he citing like U.S. Customs and Immigration Enforcement? He's trying to cite particular things, and he didn't even know what law this guy was deported under. What? You've already shown that you don't know anything about the details of this case. Why the fuck are you trying to cite particular processes or procedures with relation to immigration hearings?
CFR.
I don't have my phone on me.
So it's 8 CFR. The
withholding of
24
deportation
sub
law
08
states that if an individual receives a USCIS interview that determines the circumstances of their home country has changed, they can be deported. Withholding is void.
8 CFR 224. Look it up. So you go to sub F on that statute, or it's a regulation. It is not the province of USCIS to determine whether someone's going to be,
You have to go back to the immigration judge.
Yeah, you have to go to IJ judge.
Right.
You have to go to immigration judge.
It would-
No.
It would be
Pull up the
immaterial.
law on withholding of deportation, which explicitly states that a USCIS interview can determine that the circumstances of their home country has changed. I don't have my phone on me.
That's affirmatively. We're talking. So this is the problem. This is defensive relief, and so in the immigration context, you can apply affirmatively to USCIS,
right.
or you can be before an EOIR
Then
judge.
I'll say this.
And-
I concede. Let's bring him back,
There you go.
and the first thing that happens when he walks in the door is they turn him back
So I
around.
just want to be sure. You concede that it was unjust and it should be brought back and then put in removal
No.
proceedings?
Stop playing
That's
games.
what you just said.
Stop playing games.
That is what you
I am
said.
saying for the sake of argument, I will no contest your argument and say.
Okay,
that
his,
the end
but
of-
his argument was that it was an unjust and illegal deportation. So just own it.
It's pussy shit. Don't
No.
no contest an argument.
that's-
Actually,
that's-
take the
Fucking A. That is pussy shit. True. Own it. He pissed. Why don't I have a piss sound effect?
I do the work, and you give the money.
That's not the piss sound effect.
argument and say the end
that's
result.
pussy shit. Don't no contest an argument.
that's-
Actually,
that's-
take the
it's
argument.
fair. I think it's
That's
fair.
that's you engaging in semantics to change the
That's
arguments I make.
pussy shit. Why don't you actually engage with the argument? Why don't you actually engage with the argument and not say, oh, I don't know, because I'm fucking backed into a corner. Now I'm just going to say, I don't really care.
What this guy does
The
is
meta.
he plays semantic
What he
games
does.
with the ideas being presented. So
I wonder when the last time I've accused somebody of playing semantics. I don't think it's a good argument. When you're talking legal stuff, the semantic understanding is sometimes essential. That's really important. like people say semantics, I think, when they maybe mean like equivocation. So, for instance, if I say like, I don't even know in the context here. This argument is so lost. Equivocating is when you kind of use a word that doesn't really centrally mean what you're kind of getting at. You're kind of like playing games here. So like, I think Dan kind of like bullied his wife. And let's say that what we all know about Dan is that Dan actually like beat the shit out of her with brass knuckles, right? He bullied his wife. That's hardcore equivocation. He physically assaulted her, okay, at the least. Every time I hear somebody bring up semantics, I did see what time was that. Usually they just don't know what they're talking about, and then they get frustrated and they just want to say, oh, that's semantic. You're not having a semantic disagreement here. You just don't know the facts of anything you're talking about. And as a result, you're also having major disagreements on substance. But
he is being presented so that he can try and finagle out of when he's backed into a corner.
Wait, so how am I backed into? So I understand the proposition to be,
because
is the deportation unjust? I understand the proposition to be.
The end result of Abrego Garcia's return to this country is immediate expedited removal.
So
what the fuck is the point?
So I
Waste
heard
our
you.
fucking time.
So I just want to be clear. I understood the proposition.
And the counter question should be, oh, okay, fine. Then let's say that would have been the end result. Then why didn't they just do it right the first time? Huh?
I understood the proposition that you laid. I listened very carefully. Said, is it just and should it be brought back? And you just said, okay, I guess he should be. It was unjust. He should be brought back.
The point is, it's called a moot point when you're arguing something that is immaterial to the end result of what we're trying to accomplish.
The debate proposition is a moot point. I just want to hear you say that.
You're playing semantic games again.
He's playing semantic games for using the term that you just brought up. You just brought up moot point.
I also heard everyone else said this is debate. Come to the arena, debate. You guys are coping. You know you are.
True.
We are debating.
They're coping. They're true.
Can I say something? I supposedly am debating here, right? I don't even remember that was supposed to happen. So the resolution was supposed
let him talk. Let him talk.
The resolution was supposed to be, is the deportation profoundly unjust, right? And there's a reason for that adverb. Right? It's because there is a mild injustice that happens whenever the law is not followed, right? So, unless there is like some dramatic reason to not follow the law in a particular instance, there's usually a mild injustice. I think that the more interesting, and the funny thing is the Trump administration has conceded to this since the beginning of the filings. Right?
Yep.
The Trump administration conceded from the outset that this was administrative error, that they should have gotten the withholding of removal lifted before they removed him to El Salvador.
Not good.
I don't think that's the most interesting question, because it's a question that like even the Trump administration agrees to for the most part.
Well, no, that's correct. He is right here, but he's about to be very fucking wrong. He's right that the interesting question isn't, did they fuck up? Because they did fuck up, and they admitted they fucked up. The interesting question is, what can we make them do to bring him back? That's the real interesting question. The fake interesting question he's about to ask is something like, well, would he have been deported otherwise? Or if he comes back, won't he just get deported again? Or was justice ultimately served? It's going to be some retarded shit that he's going to say.
I think the question is this a profound injustice? And I think the answer to that is obviously no, for the reasons I laid out at the beginning, right? I think I'd like to actually hear your argument for why this is a profound injustice and not merely a mild one.
And I want to make...
The Trump admin didn't admit it in court filings. They said it in a press release. The attorney that said in oral arguments that it was a mistake was fired. Well, oral arguments are part of the court's record, and the attorney did say that it was an error in the oral arguments, right? So I tried to make the distinction earlier. It was an attorney that said it technically, but.
I'd like to actually hear your argument for why this is a profound injustice and not merely a mild one.
And I want to make one little point though, Bisco. When it comes to Abrego Garcia, and I personally think this is an isolated incident, but even if you are right, I'll concede that I think, I ideologically, even though you and I are different on this subject, I do feel like that he didn't get his, due process. And I had to debate this on college campuses. It is hard. But in this instance with Abrego Garcia, I think it's isolated, and I don't think that it's a massive problem. That's what I think about this, but I do concede.
They go entwined. This question is like, who really cares, right? Who really cares? One guy, whatever.
Well, it's kind of like you're George Floyd. They're making this guy to be like a hero, and it's one incident, and it's bad, but he's not a hero, and he still, beat his wife. So it just kind of sucks
that
even though you are
immaterial
right in this
as
instance. I don't want to be like the left because they say that the means, the ends justify the means, and I don't want to be like that. I don't want to break the law to get the outcome that we want.
So I want to be clear. I'm going to give you a hot take. This is worse than the George Floyd situation. This is worse.
Well, they're laughing, Pisco, because these guys don't even think the George Floyd situation was a real situation at all. So
George Floyd situation, and I'll tell you why.
Okay, wow. Yeah, ones in the chat. Ones in the chat.
I don't know from
Let's let him
what
talk. This
perspective
is
that could
interesting.
possibly be right. Like, it doesn't matter how you come down on George Floyd. The valence of George Floyd is bigger on either
So
side.
I understand. So I take the assumption, and
Let him talk. Let him talk, guys.
And I do believe that George Floyd was murdered. I watched that entire trial. I think it's clear that they're
Fentanyl, but okay, go ahead. But let's let him say.
Yeah, no, you should listen to the pulmonary cardiologist, his testimony. Yeah.
Let him talk. Let him talk. Let's hear this.
Yeah.
Guys, he's about to make a good point.
So-
I'm interested in this.
So this is why I do think that even though that there's a history of cop violence, not just on black people, on people of all races, whatever, and it's a problem in the United States. I think that it doesn't present the same kind of civilizational problems that are presented by what the Trump administration is doing here. What they're trying to do here is put people outside of the contours of U.S. law. We have prisons in the United States. We have prisons in the United States for the worst of the worst. We spend money on it. The reason why we need to send them to Sicat or to El Salvador is quite simply because Trump doesn't want to be hemmed in by the law. And that, when the president of the United States, when the strongest person in the country is saying things like, for example, I want to do this to U.S. criminals. I want to use it for U.S.
said
citizens.
that. I said earlier that Pisco should bring up the fact that Trump said that he filed an EO to not count naturalized citizens as actual citizens. That's probably what he's citing here is actually probably even a stronger argument. That what Trump actually said was that he wants to be able to send the homegrown ones there too. That's even more unhinged.
Believe him. I believe that he wants to do that.
How about this, Pisco? You and I both know Guantanamo Bay. There are people that are being held there without due process. We're not losing sleep over that. I don't see the left. And that was done by Obama, kept that when he said he campaigned, I'm going to shut down Guantanamo Bay. Yet he's still there.
I like how Obama is responsible for Guantanamo Bay because he didn't close it when it was a Republican, George Bush, that started it. But okay, Chief, that's a real tricky, sneaky game there, I guess.
Was wrong for
Derek Chauvin did nothing wrong, and he is held unjustly.
That's wrong. That's wrong. But that's wrong. But let's just. I want to ask you guys, if Trump sends U.S. citizens abroad to Sicat, you'd have a problem with that, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know about that. As a different form instead of using a U.S. prison?
Yeah.
I don't know why it's any different than our private prison industry that's a scam.
So
to send them to a prison.
This is the danger.
Yeah,
This is the danger. Trump is selling. Trump is testing.
And we got 2 minutes left, and then we're about to get into the debate. So go ahead.
Trump is testing this theory, and he's telling you in advance he wants to apply it to U.S. citizens. And just like Obama, one of the things I respect about Tim Pool is he's aware of the kinds of violations that occurred under Rumsfeld, under the neocons, under Barack Obama, under Trump Term 1, and that very same rationale that applied to Guantanamo Bay, that applied to the deprivations of due process in Abu Ghraib, surely that applies to Trump version 2. And I don't see a kind of exceptional circumstance in this case that would justify breaking the law.
Well, before we go to the members, Will, do you want to take the last point?
Oh, yeah. I mean, so I think the argument that this is ultimately going to lead to U.S. citizens deportation is just a really bad slippery slope argument. I don't think that's true. I think that there's so many other remedies that are available to U.S. citizens that it's not going to happen.
It's such a dog shit argument. So wait, is this Will Chamberlain guy? Is he like a conservative media guy or what? They're all like this. It's just such crazy. It's just such shamelessness. Like, oh, this is a slippery slope. Would Trump ever really do this? As Trump has continued to slide down the slope over and over and over again, as Trump has gotten more and more unhinged with the things that he's doing, with Republicans backing him every single step of the way. Like, excuse me?
I think that
You want to send U.S. citizens to Sicat?
Well,
Who decides? That's the question. Do we just trust Trump and his Kash Patel to say who the terrorists are?
What are you? Pisco, with any sort of prison, I mean, there's levels of crime would decide.
But there's also levels of review, right? So
there is levels of review.
One of the reasons why Tim, I think, in good faith, is against the death penalty. He understands the propensity for courts, yes, even courts with full review, to get shit wrong sometimes. In this case, I think that you should be fearful of a purely executive discretion on who is a terrorist sufficient to make a big hole in due process.
And here's where I want to make one last point, right? And this is why I think the slippery slope argument is bad. It'd be one thing if the Trump administration was hiding that it had made this administrative error from the beginning, but from the outset, from the very first filing in court.
What an unbelievable fucking Trump cocksucker. This guy, I guarantee you that this dude went into the fucking Amazonian rainforest with 15 Shaolin monks to train his throat for months to be able to take every single inch of that orange spray painted cock down his fucking throat so that he could come out here and show us how good he could suck his daddy off on stage. To say that they admitted to the error when the attorney that did was fucking fired for it is an insanely incorrect, like, outright fucking lie. It is so... Sorry, maybe that's not what he was going to say, and that was all necessary. Sorry, hold on.
This is why I think the slippery slope argument is bad. It'd be one thing if the Trump administration was hiding that it had made this administrative error from the beginning, but from the outset, from the very first filing in court, from the first declaration, the Trump administration was like, we made a mistake. It was an administrative error. He should have had his withholding removal lifted. So, he didn't fire the guy who made the declaration, right? He made the, fired the attorney, but he didn't fire
they suspended the guy who admitted it, and
they suspended the attorney, but not
and
the
Stephen Miller is
declaration.
saying it was a mistake. Stephen Miller's lying about the Supreme Court decision, and you agree that Trump could get him back if he wanted to.
I mean, I think he could. I just don't. I think it's beyond the judicial power to order.
Whether it's beyond the judicial power to order, since you said it was unjust, why wouldn't you want him to right the wrong that you acknowledge?
Here's how I would have him do that, right? Like, and one of two ways. Either a Zoom hearing or a hearing in the American Embassy in San Salvador, right? You resolve the problem. You resolve the problem by just having the hearing to lift the withholding of removal.
But the Supreme Court said facilitate his release in custody in El Salvador.
Yeah, they said that, and it's like I think they're acting on a rush basis. They haven't been very clear about what they mean by facilitate, and neither is Judge Zinnes, frankly.
I mean, because that's an incredibly hairy issue that they probably want to reprimand to the lower courts to allow the government and the court to figure out without them just coming by and saying it directly. That's an incredibly hairy issue for the Supreme Court to just 100% take ownership over, obviously. He probably knows this, but whatever.
So I think the solution here is, whatever, while they're litigating what exactly facilitate means in this context, you just go ahead and handle the withholding of removal issue. He's going to lose on it.
And he's not. First of all, I just want to address it real quick because I want to address the issues of collateral estoppel and the issues in issue preclusion. That is a legal term of art, but for the lawyers who are eventually going to watch this, the bond hearing is only related to the issue of whether or not he's in the moment a danger to the community. It's not a finding of the court that is able to apply and have binding precedent on any other determination. Furthermore, the basic contours of due process and collateral estoppel require there to be a vigorous process where the issues were really held. They didn't have the opportunity to cross-examine any of the witnesses. An anonymous witness on two forms, one of which is like blatantly wrong and contradictory. They said they picked him up for murder, and so the issue of collateral estoppel, there's no collateral estoppel.
I mean, I think in the context of an immigration proceeding, I think it would, you can't suddenly take a criminal standard.
Okay, that's 30 minutes, but we'll let you wrap
Thank you, guys.
it up.
So, and then just the second issue of withholding, it's clear under the regulations and under the due process clause, you are allowed to bring up, if just as the burden of the proof is going to be on the government to show that the country conditions have changed so that Barrio 18 is like no longer a threat because Bukele is just fucking Superman or whatever, he's going to have additional opportunities to argue other withholding arguments, one of which is now that he's been identified by Bukele by name, he has a very strong argument that he's going to be actually a target of persecution by Bukele and the administration and the state, which I think is actually a stronger argument than the Barrio 18 argument.
Let's roll.
All right, guys, now let's get it on. That was our introductory debate. You guys kind of got your palate, Well, now we need the palate cleanse. You got your little taste of what tonight's going to be about. So, guys, what's going to happen is that we're going to pick people up. We're going to kind of mix it up. So first we're going to start with Donnie Dossie. But, Donnie, what's going to happen is you're going to come up here. You're going to get a minute uninterrupted to talk about whatever prompt you want. We have this prompt. We're just going to use your because you're the first one. And then after you make that argument, then you're going to come up here, and that's when we're going to have the back-and-forth dialogue. So you got 1 minute. And then, hopefully just give us your best 1 minute elevator pitch on your topic and why you think you're right. Then you get the 4 minutes back and forth. You get to freaking argue with the most famous guy on YouTube.
And if we like you, you stay. But if you suck, I'm going to kick you out.
Yeah. If I suck, I suck.
And, so your 1 minute starts. Let me get the timer out. So
Just go for it. He'll start it.
Yeah, okay. Ready, Ready, set, debate, or say your topic.
So this withholding of removal thing that I keep hearing about. Granted, I admit I'm not a lawyer or anything. I also, I didn't actually read the Supreme Court ruling or anything. But my understanding of the withholding of removal is this makes it illegal for them to have deported Garcia to El Salvador. It did not grant him permanent residency within the United States.
No one said
it
it
also
did
not outlaw ability to deport him to another country. So
It was
I'm kind of
but-
confused on where the confusion. Okay, I get it. A mistake was made. He was accidentally deported to El Salvador. So what happens from that point? We go ahead and we bring him back. How do we bring him back? What if Bukele isn't willing to relinquish him to us? How do we go about getting
the fact that they're throwing up roadblocks before it's even been tried, and also the fact that please don't ever pretend that this is an argument that's proffered in good faith. This is a joke fucking argument. What if the president of the United States of America can't compel, no offense to anybody listening, but El Salvador to return somebody? Give me a fucking break. The guy who is supposed to be able to stand up to the entire fucking world, to Putin, to Russia, everything else, buckles under the fear of El Salvador? Come on.
them back? Are we supposed to send in the military and go take them by force and bring them back here just so that way we can detain them and deport them again anyways? None of that makes sense to me.
Yeah!
That's kind of my point.
All right, well,
Come on up, and then we can tell you why you're wrong.
I mean, that's my position too, mostly. So nice to meet you too.
Well, let's roll. I mean, what was wrong?
Sure. Happy to. First of all, thank you guys. I know that we disagree on stuff, but I really appreciate y'all coming here. I think it's a really important topic, due process, and so I think it's awesome for.
If I could say real quick, kudos to you, man.
Thank you.
Big balls. Come up here, go up against these three, and an entire fucking room of people that are opposing you. That's strong.
Okay, you don't need to kiss his ass. Let's,
I appreciate
let's go.
So I think the first, I'm going to deal in reverse order. The first thing is well, how can we actually get that done? I think everyone, if they're being honest with themselves, because you guys are honest people, should admit that Trump could, if he wanted to,
easily
get Kilmar Garcia back.
Without
he
even using
recently,
force.
as
Come
this
on.
week, said he could get him back. So we believe in terms of practicality, the president of the United States could get him back, right?
I mean, I concede he could because he does have a lot of sway and
There we go.
Bukele
So you
wants to
agree with
work
that,
him.
right?
He wants to work with him, but then at the same time, this also keeps Bukele in the spotlight.
Yeah, I
and
know.
he likes being in the spotlight.
But let's not talk about questions of could. Let's talk about questions of should, because I don't really think that you can make a strong argument that he couldn't.
I don't really think
Actually-
that he needs to waste his time on it.
Well, hang on, I just wanted to give Will an opportunity.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think my point is that there's Article 2 prerogatives that he actually does need to protect. And so in a world where Article 3 is sort of in this vague game of trying to order him to return him,
This is
I
a
would
good point.
say no.
So I want to give Will his credit because it is the case. There are, as the Supreme Court held, limits, Article 3 limits on their ability to infringe on the Article 2 prerogatives. And I agree with some of these.
Maybe Pisco strategically grants some of this to seem like he's more in good faith or whatever, but nobody is asking for the court to order Donald Trump to say that the court has written an order saying Donald Trump must conduct military strikes on El Salvador. Nobody's saying that the court needs to issue anything even remotely that strong. I don't even like making these concessions, but
if the Supreme Court said to Trump, hey, you have to go send in spec ops to take this guy
yes.
out.
Thank you. Yes, that would be a problem, but we're not even close to that. Thank you. Fuck. Why does nobody in media know anything? I feel, God, there's 3 people that I can even fucking stand to watch, okay? Pisco's one of them because he's read and he understands. Oh, Jesus.
I would
This is truly, you shouldn't even have to say this. This is a waste of a fucking argument. We should have educated people arguing the actual interesting arguments here, but it's not. It's just fucking retarded shit all constantly.
that's unconstitutional for them to order that. So I do agree that there are some limits here, but that's a question of whether the court can order the remedy, not a question about what Trump could do.
Well, no, because there's an odd element to this too, and I think that you're eliding. Okay. The odd argument is that in a world where the Supreme Court is attempting to encroach on his power with vague orders, and Trump accedes to it, that sets a precedent.
Oh God, and I hope Pisco brings it up. I hope Pisco brings it up, right? We have to recognize that this argument that he's using, he is on an incredibly slippery slope argument here. If I understand it correctly, when people say we don't want Article 3 infringing Article 3, they're saying that they don't want the courts to be telling the president necessarily how to do his job, okay? Excuse me, what do you mean by that? Well, the courts can't simply tell the president that he has to launch a military strike to get somebody else back. Excuse me, if he shouldn't have deported the person in the first place, and they've ruled that that was an illegal deportation, and they're trying to get him back, why they can't order that at all? No, never. Okay, gotcha. Hypothetical time. Trump deports 10 U.S. citizens to El Salvador. What's your argument for the court not being able to order Trump to bring those citizens back? Are they actually feckless here as well? Can they say nothing? Like, because if that's the case, then what you've just created is, okay, well, whoa, I just woke up and I'm on a night flight over the Pacific Ocean and I've got federal agents that are threatening to murder me if I don't give them some piece of information. What are you going to do? Well, the federal courts have no jurisdiction because of Article 3 infringing Article 2. They're outside of the U.S. territory now. Now it's a military operation. You can't order. Oh, well, fuck. Oh, well, fuck. U.S. presidents this whole time just needed this one simple trick to torture and murder U.S. citizens is to just move them out of the country. This one simple trick. Like, come on.
For what the court can do going forward. And so, I mean, and since we're in this area of like core Article 2 power, why I think I think Trump should do, as I said, I think the remedy here is this hearing in El Salvador. But I think Trump should resist any sort of attempt to say, oh, you're ordering me to negotiate with the Salvadoran government to bring him back. I'm not going to do that until you give that out.
We also need to address what it means to what the phrase "could bring him back" means. And this would mean that Trump would need to negotiate with Bukele to some degree. And I also believe it's fair to say that while Trump could bring him back, the resistance is going to be tremendous.
What?
Bukele is going to have to concede to his nation, I have released an MS-13 gang member because I was pressured by a foreign country.
That's right.
Bro, I'm sorry. Do you think El Salvadorians are all as retarded as you are? That they're under some delusion that Bukele has the ability to say anything to Donald Trump when it comes to saying no? Like, what?
So
Correct.
Trump could
Also
get
a
him
good
back,
point.
but
Absolutely.
Trump's going to have to come in like,
We can't
here's
do
what
that.
we'll give you this, we'll give you that. Things that the Supreme Court can't order him to guarantee.
Bukele has like what, 90% approval in El Salvador? I've had a client from El Salvador before, and I don't want to underplay the
Because
problem that
he's
gang.
hard on them.
What's that?
Because he's hard on crime. He's hard on gang.
So I want to be clear. Like my client that I once had, he was absolutely a victim to the gang violence. It was endemic and it was just unlivable in El Salvador. So I don't want to underplay the degree to which gang violence matters. It absolutely does. But he is not. His approval rating, is to the max. The notion that he would face some kind of humongous
At the
pushback.
very second that he softens on that, his approval rating's going to go down.
You don't think he's like
You
okay,
guys don't even know what the fuck he's done. You have no idea about anything. His approval rating is untouchable with you retards. Like, how could he even, like...
we gave it back because we want to make a good relation with the president. That's not going to affect his approval rating such that it's going to material. Come on, this is all a joke. If Trump wanted him back,
Pisco, I want to do some Socratic dialogue
Yeah,
with
go
you
for it, go
because
for it.
you did a lot
Yes, I
earlier.
did, yes, go for it.
So let's do some Socratic dialogue. Imagine a different hypothetical. Let's imagine a world where the United States had an illegal member of La Cosa Nostra in detention.
Yep.
And somehow he had managed to acquire withholding removal from an immigration judge. Maybe that information got hidden about him being in La Cosa Nostra, whatever. Okay, he got a withholding of removal to Italy.
to like Italy, yeah.
Okay, the Italy hypothetical. And then,
That's 4 minutes, Donnie. Dude,
Let's and
What? Can you let him finish the hypothetical, or...
any final thoughts before we
yeah,
go?
but Donnie, you spent
They'll do it right after he steps off.
a minute of
questions,
it
good
kissing Pisco's
Yeah,
ass.
I shouldn't be kissing his ass. I was just trying to talk about, I'm impressed that he got up here, but at the
I
same time,
respect
he's fucking
Well,
wrong.
we're impressed
all
that
around.
you're here,
That's
too.
where I'm at.
But I do agree. I do tremendously respect you being here, man. This is fantastic.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you. Yeah, we do appreciate it. Okay, now, guys, obviously, no, thank you, Donnie. Great job. And so, guys, you're going to be able to come up here. So try to interject a little bit. I know, Donnie, it's tough being the first one, so don't beat yourself up. You actually did a good job. Thank you. You're the virgin. We just, you took our virginity. So thank you. Well, Alex Jones, we're about to get into Alex Jones, but it's funny because we're getting heckled by... Let's be real, guys. This is a sausage fest, it is. But we do have a few ladies here. So next up, I want one of those beautiful ladies from the audience to come on down. So do we have a lady that wants to come up here? Do we have a lady? Yeah, come on. Come on. Yes, come on. Get up there. You have to come up. Yeah. If you're here, guys, you're susceptible to being chosen and get up there. So just say anything. Just come up for a minute. If you suck for the minute, you get kicked off.
Jesus.
You don't have a choice. Just come up here. Don't be scared. You're going to go viral. You got Tim Pool.
Let's try. Let's just for the sake of
Oh
time.
my
come on.
gosh. Okay, well, if you're gonna be a chicken, Bach. Well, like, listen. You know, you came here. You put on that dress. You wanted to be seen. Let's see it.
Let's grab who we have.
All right. So, all right. Let's go with somebody that's different. Is John Gordon here? We got a John Gordon in the audience. No. Okay.
He wanted to be here.
What about Connor York? Do we have a Connor York in the audience? All right, no. What about a Sam Lipton? Do we have a Sam Lipton in the audience? None of that. Is there anybody that's liberal or, has a different viewpoint than us that wants to come up here?
Well, it's different, but it's...
Okay, well then you come up here. What's your name?
Jesus.
Stork is what people call it.
Stork. Okay. Did you submit? Did you do an official submission? Okay, I'll find it. So,
We'll go for it.
You got your 1 minute.
Let him deal the timer in. Let's see what you got.
Yeah, if I can get it in before he gets the timer going. Okay, so I believe he is slightly wrong. I believe you are mostly correct. And I believe all of this is a fact that they denied him his Sixth Amendment right to a speedy trial when he was denied essentially all of the processing that would have been needed when he had the stay of deportation. So he should have been sent to another place. In addition to that, most of immigration is actually screwed up because we have not filed a writ of mandamus against the federal government for not processing all of these people who are stuck in immigration limbo for 8, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, and they should be doing their job and getting them the hell out of the country.
I think.
Come on down. Take a seat.
have a lot to say
Come
about
on down.
I could be wrong on this. Actually, I'm totally guessing here. So Kafka or whatever, you can correct me if I'm wrong. But when you talk about the right to a speedy trial, I think that's a right more on what you don't want is you don't want people being detained and then waiting for years and years for the government to try a case while you're awaiting trial, basically. I think this is kind of the concept behind, or one of the reasons why like catch and release works. Like if somebody's caught and then they try to claim asylum and you give them a ticket to show up at a court, like if they're not being held anywhere, like I don't think it's the same speedy trial argument per se. Speedy trials are just supposed to ensure that like, oh, we've arrested you, but don't worry, you've got due process and everything, and you're going to stand trial for your crimes, and the next available trial date is 8 years from now while you sit and rot in prison. Good luck. Or jail, I guess. Yeah. I think that's more like what the speedy trial stuff is about, but
I mean, I
Take a
don't.
seat.
Sixth Amendment doesn't apply. It's not a
I don't
criminal
think the
punishment.
Sixth Amendment applies.
So it's not a Sixth Amendment issue.
Because it's a civil removal.
And
Right.
you can't get a writ of mandamus. Number one is these judges are executive branch officials. So
You can get a federal writ of
you sure
mandamus.
can get a writ of mandamus against executive branch officials, but right now they're all under Trump, and so if
can a court order more judges being hired for cases like that, or does that have to be a law? I think this needs to be legal stuff. This was part of what the Biden bill would have done. This is part of what the Biden bill would have done that they were trying to do, or I shouldn't call the Biden bill, it's technically Lankford's bill, but the immigration one is would have hired a lot more of these immigration judges to hear these cases and work through the backlog.
if Trump could just order them to do whatever you want the writ of mandamus.
Why do MAGA dipshits constantly say J6ers were denied due process and a speedy trial? Criminal cases can take a long time if you're trying to build a strong, especially affirmative defense, for any defense. Every time they said that a J6er was denied due process, when I looked it up, it was usually them, the J6er themselves, that were continuing cases or appealing or doing whatever. I couldn't find any examples of any of that denied due process shit. Every time they bring an example up and I look it up, it's always a lie, so. Dean talking about you? Based, link me. Oh, shit. The Z drama never dies.
Espresso setup, and in fact I still have that downstairs. I love it. I drink from it every morning.
Oh my god, I crushed that. Wait, please. Do I really need to be logged in to... Seriously?
The reason
Hold on.
by asking for the Starbucks to be in a different cup, which like demonstrates that I like on the outside I want to look like I don't drink Starbucks, but in all reality I don't care. But I just didn't want people to know that, so I put it in a different cup. That's not true. Once again, the reason why I asked it to be placed in a different cup is because I just didn't want to promote the brand. Like I could acknowledge that I don't think I'd drink it under typical circumstances, which is true. However, like I did drink it under like the atypical circumstance that it was bought by the organizers of the pack, and I just simply didn't want to promote the brand, so we put it in an Unfuck America cup. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's not the most unfair thing. Let me use the rest for 1 sec.
Yeah. Somebody in the chat says, not Dean denying everything. Well, I've only denied things that are false. Like, for instance, like the idea that I had gardened with Z, or like told Z before the tour to not make a statement. Now, I did affirm the things that were true. And in fact, I'll kind of reiterate this because we have a larger crowd of individuals in here now. And I'll repeat this now just because there's some more people. If you saw Payton's most recent video, he also made the claim that I figured out about Z's business fraud 2 weeks before the event via DM from an individual, and I swept it under the rug and I did nothing about it. So it is true that an ex-employee of Z's did reach out to me over DMs. They basically told me that Z is a fraudster. Because I wanted to learn more, I wanted to know what they're referencing, and it was important to me because I wanted to know who I was going into business with. I then took the information that I then DM'd them back. I asked them for more information about their claims. And then when they provided me with more information about their claims, I then turned around to an organizer, not only on the Unfuck America tour, but also at Soul Strategies. And I had them verify that this individual was a legitimate ex-employee. And then on top of that, I then had them address and respond to like the DMs in which they had provided to me about Z's past of defrauding her employees. And their explanation offered made sense to me at the time. I genuinely did believe that these claims were not true, and that there was somehow justification for the screenshots provided, as well as the claim that she was a fraudster was false. And I mean, I could provide good reasoning for you to believe that I believe them. I myself was a contractor of Z. In fact, me and Parker were as it came out, the only individuals in which were compensated by the pack, by Z, by the organizers. And if I didn't believe the offered explanation by the pack that she had not defrauded prior employees or contractors at a purely self-interested reasoning, that would mean that I would have been at risk for being defrauded. And once again, just purely examining reasons of self-interest, if I believed I was at risk for being defrauded, I probably wouldn't have gone. So now, obviously in retrospect, after everything else that has come out about Z, I think that it is likely that those claims were true. But I didn't sweep them under the rug. I had them.
Wait, what claims were true?
As of,
nobody's even not been paid that was supposed to be paid on this event. No.
More careful about who I'm going into business with. You're spot on. I agree 100%. I think one of my big takeaways is not just from this instance, but other facts associated with the event as a whole, is that I just need to be significantly more careful about who I do business with. And that is 100% true. 100% true. That is undeniably true.
He's talking about the money laundering.
And then I
didn't they win that case on summary judgment? She didn't even. The other people lost before they even got to trial.
Why I didn't inform any of the other creators going on the tour about this? Well, my first step was to go and talk to the people associated with the pack to see if the claims were true. They'd explained to me that the claims were false, and as I believed them at the time, I didn't see reason to talk.
How much shit do they have to talk for you to call them out on a debate publicly?
I can say that I should have.
I challenge Dean and Parker to a public debate / conversation on this. To be clear, I don't think they're evil or they fucked up a ton. I just feel like they're making a ton of concessions to the wrong types of people, and I feel like this issue is nowhere near as big of a deal as it's been made out to be. I think that would be my challenge on what to chat about, but
lettuce with her was not true at all. That's just not true at all. Yeah, people in the chat are saying that there's proof. Well, the proof that you're referencing is a text message saying that I...
that Peyton guy is evil. Yes, that's true.
Smoked the devil's lettuce with her. And
what?
Parker has denied that occurred.
Weed?
Another individual named Sid has denied that occurred. For me specifically, I didn't smoke with her. And in fact, I'll even argue that you won't be able to find a single creator that actually went on the trip that will attest to seeing me, actually seeing me doing that with her or with a greater group, because I didn't do that. Yeah. And I mean, I feel like, you know, if you watch my content frequently, you know that I don't do the devil's lettuce. I've kind of always spoken about that. I just simply don't do that, and I never have.
Good boy.
The angel's lettuce, as one might say. Why not? The angel's lettuce, it makes me really anxious. I don't really feel good when I do it. In fact, I stopped doing that and like in high school. Yeah. Makes me too anxious. Somebody gets it. You feel so paranoid. So do I. So do I, quite frankly.
So do I.
Quite frankly.
Me too.
Buddy was talking to 20 girls at once. No, now you're confusing me with Harry.
Uh-oh.
You're confusing me with somebody else, quite frankly. Not me.
Rest in
Not
peace,
me.
Harry. You were a
Somebody
brave
in the
warrior.
chat says, you were paid by Nancy Pelosi. I have proof. What the hell? No, I'm not. Somebody calls me a homophobic misogynist. Wow. I don't think that's true. I think I'd have to disagree. Somebody says grifter.
What happened with Harry?
I don't think I'm a
he
grifter.
was sexting
Did you hang out with
with
Z at all
a collection of
after the
women,
event?
I think 11 of them by the
After
end
the event,
of
boots on the ground, I
a
think
couple
that we
years.
went
And then he
back
announced that
to
he was
the hotel.
dating some girl, and I think all of them were like, wait a second, why aren't you dating me? And then they're all like, he said that I was the only girl he was sexting or whatever, something like that, allegedly.
At that dinner in that ballroom. And then, of course, the next flight was out the next morning. I think that Z was a driver of that bus. So I mean, if you want to like argue that we hung out while we were like in the bus to the airport, like you could like classify that as hanging out, I guess. But she was like not at like the dinner. I think for the most part she was like up in her hotel room, and then I think she came down later and hung out with some of the other creators. So that's where you get the allegation that like she was like other individuals were smoking with Z, but like I wasn't there. Who sent those texts about the after party? I don't know.
Unironically, and have
I've been trying to
weaponized the
figure
legal
that one out
system way too
myself.
much. Most of it isn't legal. Most of it is just like public call-outs. I think mine is just exceptionally unhinged. I think the issue, though, is that people don't seem to know what public call-outs are for, I think, which is the frustrating thing. Like, the idea behind public call-outs was supposed to be that you've tried to get somebody to be either held accountable or to get them to stop doing some egregious action. And you've exhausted like every means privately, and like it's just not happening for a variety of reasons. Maybe they have a lot of power in a given industry. Maybe just nobody's hearing out a particular victim for whatever reason. There could be a variety of reasons why there's just no justice being served in some particular circumstance. So in that case, if that's what's happening, then at some point you have to say, fuck it, I'm going public. There's nothing else. There's no other way to get justice. But now it seems like for reasons I can only speculate on, because people like the attention, now going public is the first step. You just mentioned
anything
what?
Peyton said true. Yeah, I mean, a lot of what he said was true. I think that he
and it's weird that you would just
I mean,
like
I think for the
publicize
most part, he had
everything
good
about your private
intentions
life or
going
whatever
into what he was
stuff
saying.
instantly. I think
And,
that's
like,
kind of strange.
I think
but-
that 8 out of 10 things that Peyton has said is true, but like the other 2 out of 10 are like false. Like, I mean, like the only things that I could think of that like Peyton have said that are false is that some of the black creators that went on the trip had to cover their own travel. I'm pretty fair with saying like that. It's like definitively false now, if that makes any sense. When I originally heard that claim in his video, of course, I originally reached out to him. I DM'd him. I asked him for more information about who specifically was not paid. He denied to tell me then. I then went and I actually talked to the individual creators on the trip. They all denied it. And then Peyton went back on live with me and said that he would DM me the names of the black creators that weren't paid. He never did. And now, like, a couple days later, I mean, I still haven't been able to figure out anything about any black creators on the trip that went unpaid insofar as their travel. I'd say that was probably false. And then another thing that he said was false is that I, of course, was
Peyton
doing
the evil
lettuce
one?
with Z.
Yes, Peyton is super evil.
And then like the fact that I was like keeping it like a quote unquote secret, that Z had defrauded employees in the past. But I mean, I don't know if I'd classify that as a lie, because I think that a lie would require intent. What I think of the allegations on Mr. Jones at this point. I did speak about this the day before yesterday. Just like
I don't even know who Mr.
fucking
Jones is.
so gross.
Okay, I don't know if there's anything I care about in here. We'll see.
all under Trump. And so, if Trump could just order them to do whatever you want the writ of mandamus to do.
That's democracy.
Yeah, but like, so all I mean is to say is, I think that this is properly understood as a due process issue.
If the writ of mandamus was actually filed under the previous administration, then they would be obligated to do what it is they need to do.
That sounds like it's the Article 3 judges encroaching on the executive branch prerogatives.
Yeah, I think that actually, and in this context, it probably would be, because we actually, this is. Like, I agree. Yeah, there's an Article 2 prerogative to manage immigration and enforce immigration laws. You can fail to enforce to such a degree that it would be like mandamusable by somebody, but then there's all sorts of like other questions.
I want to cut a deal real quick with Democrats. Yeah. I will advocate for the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia to this country for his immediate.
I'll advocate for him to come back for his immediate deportation. If you advocate for Derek Chauvin to be released from his unjust imprisonment.
Hearing. If we also simultaneously get a hearing on the extrajudicial assassinations Barack Obama committed.
Oh, sorry, my bad. I forgot. He's always unhinged about Barack Obama. My bad.
Wait, let's talk about that.
The same thing actually. So, writ of mandamus for.
So let's talk about that, because you might think, and I understand this point. Like, first of all, he was a U.S. citizen, right? That's number one, and he was killed. Al-Awlaki, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Anwar al-Awlaki is a great example, but Abdul Rahman is a better example.
Okay. Talk about that case.
Abdul Rahman was a 16-year-old American citizen, was not a part of any terror organizations. The Obama administration ordered a drone strike on a civilian cafe in Yemen, a country we're not at war with, blowing it up, killing a bunch of people, including him, and they've admitted to it.
Yep. Well, it's not that. Wait, how am I getting biolabs from biolabs? Oh, they just make biolabs. How cringe. Sorry. It's not just that we weren't at war with Yemen. I think it's because he was part of Al-Qaeda, right? That was the issue. But whatever.
Like, I don't think you necessarily disagree with me. That's why I said Democrats. I'm not directing at you. I know that if I went to Democratic politicians and said, you see this as an injustice, I believe that in the end the courts will prevail as it pertains to Abrego Garcia. So I'm willing to say, okay, let's spend that money, but you got to give me something. Yeah, let's have justice. Obama goes to prisons.
The only reason that I would say that's a problem is I believe there's a statute of limitations on what it is you can file a writ of mandamus for. And
is there a statute of limitations on murder?
I don't think there is in this case, but when you're talking about military actions or something like that, there may.
But he's not talking about specific writ. He's just saying in general.
A writ of mandamus, you sue the government essentially for inaction, and that's what the problem is. We have to.
But he's not talking about a particular remedy. He's saying, I'm willing to publicly support X in exchange for Democrats giving them.
Yeah, and so I will also concede there's probably, and you guys are lawyers probably know this better than me, some kind of immunity Obama has where he's going to say, this was a military strike with intelligence. We didn't intend to kill an American, but we did. So he may have some immunity from criminal prosecution.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to win a.
No, that's fine. I think you can still get wrongful death or something like that.
I mean, he absolutely has like
the
president has absolutely. I mean, you would have like a civil suit against the government.
You could. They tried it.
Unfortunately, I don't know if he has any surviving family members left because they also killed them.
Indeed. No, but my argument in the long form is actually impeach him, convict him, and then now that he's no longer immune, you go after.
But the court has already, so in the Trump versus United States case, which I totally disagree with.
Hold on.
Yeah, but
impeach him first.
Yeah.
Convict him in the impeachment.
Yeah.
Which he's no longer immune to the murder.
So the Supreme Court specifically rejected that impeachment judgment clause argument in Trump versus United States. So there's a couple arguments. So one was the inherent structure of the Constitution makes it that you have certain degrees of absolute immunity for core executive acts that are part of your core executive powers. But there was an argument additionally that Trump said that, well, I'm not immune under those theories, or alternatively, I'm immune until you impeach and remove me. That's under the impeachment judgment clause. But the Supreme Court unanimously held that that was not the case. So you don't need to impeach someone to trigger criminal immunity and remove them. That's been rejected. But it's a good question. Would I support a hearing that looks at the executive power and its use on U.S. citizens when they get killed? Absolutely.
What's evil about that Peyton dude? My partner watches him. He's just a huge virtue signaler, which is the worst type of fucking human being you can be ever.
That's 4 minutes. So Stork, thank you. Anything you want to say before you go? All right, give it up for Stork. Now, guys, when you come up, you got 1 minute. Make sure to get on the mic. Okay, now this next guy.
Why don't we just have them, if we don't know, like some people didn't show up, why don't we have them raise their hands and then see who is prepared to come
Okay, well, I know this guy's here because this guy's insane. I love this guy. No, I want to call up David Tiny Flora. So, David, come on down. Tiny, it's your turn. Come on down, Tiny.
Oh, he's coming.
Tiny, come on. Yeah, give it up for Tiny. Not exactly that tiny, I'll tell you that much. The man's huge. He's built like a damn refrigerator. Look at him. Come in here, sir.
Great trade.
Now get up on that mic. You know how to get up on things. Come on. We want to hear you. Maybe make it taller. Damn.
You can pick the mic up and take it with you.
Damn. All right, you got 1 minute.
I'm on that thing for you, Alex. $20.
No, I'm not gay. I don't play that way. Maybe Pisco.
$20, bro.
Yeah, well, I'm worth a lot more. I'm a pimp on a blimp, dude. You know what I mean? I don't need $20. But let's. You got 1 minute. What do you want to say, Tony?
All right, so what I want to discuss, you guys actually touched on it briefly.
Sorry, you can just get close to the mic.
Yeah, hold on.
So what I wanted to discuss, and you guys actually talked about it or touched on it briefly, was actually the, I guess, sale of U.S. citizens to private prison industry in the United States, and how that would be any different than selling U.S. citizens to CCOT, for example. I believe that there's already a precedent that's set in the United States where we do pass or sell inmates along, from my personal knowledge working as a corrections officer for a few years, and I believe that it would be as simple as creating a territory or creating CCOT.
Would it not matter that Obama did that with the recent Supreme Court ruling about presidential immunity? The reason why it doesn't matter is because it probably wasn't illegal when Obama did it, most likely.
Creating a territory within CCOT that is ran by the BOP.
I think it's a wonderful question.
All right,
and
sit
so,
down.
for those who didn't hear, he asked, what about the comparison to private prisons, the fact that we outsource and contract private entities to take on the responsibilities of the government, specifically with incarceration of individuals, both of, for crimes and immigration.
Wait, but Pisco, I want to say, I'm more surprised that a guy with prison tattoos was that eloquent. I mean, I
Very
can't
eloquent.
believe that. Where did you come
Sorry.
from?
I'm seeing those
He's
tattoos.
got the skull cane, he's got the marijuana leaf. I mean, damn, dude.
That's so funny.
That's gangster.
That's the
as
M,
hell.
right?
It's a great question.
The underside's actually the fireman's prayer.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, but you do have a weed flower on your arm, though,
True,
right?
that's the M.
Most
That's the
definitely.
M.
Yeah, that's it. Hey, talk into the mic. We want to hear you, Tiny. Okay, your clock starts now, so yeah, go
It's a
ahead. Sorry,
fantastic thing to say, because I think it's all fours. It's exactly the comparison. Bukele is being used as a contractor, and that plays into my argument and the argument of the plaintiffs, which is Bukele is not exercising the sovereign power of El Salvador by keeping Abrego Garcia in detention. He is being contracted by the U.S. government to hold him. Now, I know there's an
That's just
argument.
not true,
There's an
though.
argument that, like, they're only paying money for the Venezuelans. That's all a fugazi. It's all a lie. Obviously, he's working at the behest of the U.S.
Hold
government.
on, more Socratic dialogue.
Go for it.
If under normal circumstances Joe Biden had sent back a Salvadoran gang member,
Yep.
illegal alien, to Bukele, right? And say there was some financial arrangement even between Bukele,
Yep.
not necessarily related to this particular person, but there was a financial arrangement. Is then suddenly, if there's some problem, is he able to demand that he be sent back to the United States?
So I think that there's an existing contractual relationship, an existing constructive custody, you would argue, that this person is continually, it's not like one and done event. It's why is this person in, I don't actually think he's in Secot anymore. I think they transferred him someplace else. But why is he in custody in the first place? Is he being in custody because he's being charged with a crime by Bukele? Is he being, why is he in fact in prison? And the truth is, or in wherever he is, it's because he's acting at the behest of America. And everyone kind of knows it. And the fact that we all kind of acknowledge.
I don't think that's true
I
at
have
all.
a question for you, Pisco. What is the legal process for imprisoning someone in El Salvador?
I don't know. What is that process?
Me neither.
It seems very.
We don't know.
Why you're
it
bringing
seems
up a
bare
foreign
bones.
country's criminal justice system
Oh
for
my
their own
God.
citizens?
I'm sorry. You're talking about the internal domestic process in El Salvador?
Yes.
Yeah, it's at the whims of the dictator.
So, are there other dictators that you're concerned about in other parts of the world
100% I am. Yes,
that
I am.
you don't frequently debate about?
Well, I don't frequently debate about it when it.
I don't think we have to be
relates
so
US.
chauvinist to assume that every country's, process system being different, especially El Salvador, which has had 30 years of gang violence, for them to be like, no, sorry, you have gang tattoos, you're going to jail.
But I don't even think we need to argue that, because I think that there is a moral worldview difference between us, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, in that my view is, hey, we're America, we take care of America. If El Salvador's being shitty, I mean, that's El Salvador, and this guy's their citizen in their country. If they decide to put him in prison, that's not our fucking problem.
Yeah, but you're ignoring the process of how he got there and how. Yeah,
It's so. Again, if I asked this of Christy Nome, can we just give him his hearing and be done with it, because we know that in the end we are correct? And her response was, it's out of our jurisdiction now anyway.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Kind of bring it back to what we were discussing here, right? I think we kind of went a little further.
Yep.
So we already run programs very similar
Destiny Verstein, let's go. Why did he say okay? Listen, if he wants to.
here
he
in
even
the
has me
United
on
States.
Discord.
The 187G program, Sheriff Chuck Jenkins up in Frederick County, Maryland, has been running that for many years now, and has been very successful prior to the Trump
In the United
administration.
States, right?
Very correct.
I agree.
But my point is, those inmates, he is being compensated by the United States government to house them in a special wing. His deputies are deputized as federal marshals or
Correct.
federal agents. Why would it be any different if we rented out a wing in CCOT and sent inmates there no differently than what we do now. in
Well,
America.
two things. One is, I think that your description of that relationship is completely correct. I think that's exactly what's happening with Bukele there, in the sense that, yes, the U.S. government is contracting a party to enforce immigration law. Now the reason why it's different is the deprivation for which due process applies is the physical removal from the country. And so when you deport him to another place, you've now done the deprivation for which there is due process. And so that's my answer to that is, in theory, I guess I wouldn't have a problem with the law of contracting like some foreigner. I don't like it, but legally I don't know if that's a problem.
That's your time.
I just want to point out real quick. This guy right here is a Maryland man with
Maryland
knuckle
tattoo.
tattoos.
Yeah. What do you do for a living, Tiny? What do you do? Do you mind saying? What do you do?
No comment.
Damn. That means he sells weed, is what that means. All right. Now, actually, I got some information that, even though it is a little bit of a sausage party, that I think we have a lady with the courage to step up to the microphone. So with that being said, yeah, I'm okay. I said lady.
That's gratuitous.
I missed.
Now, with all that being said, let's welcome
Yeah, I
the
missed
one, the
the joke,
only,
or
and
the name.
Dr. Nate. Give it a round of applause, guys. Come on.
Thank you. Oh my God. It is such a fucking sausage party. Also, I want to say you're pissing me off, Pisco, but I'm going to try to say this without getting angry. Okay. If Kilmar comes back.
You're talking to the mic. Sorry. You're talking real close to the mic.
Can you hear me?
Hold it up. Take it off. Because we're recording this. So we can't use you if we can't hear. So talking to the mic.
Thank you, T-Bone. So, all right. First of all, this guy's name is Kilmar. Like, he sounds fucking crazy. Like, it's frightening as fuck.
Epic, hilarious.
Okay.
I mean, he is like just
Uninterrupted.
demonstrably.
Let her talk.
Are you from Maryland?
Epic,
Okay, so I
epic.
was born and raised in Maryland. Shout out to Maryland. Woo! Shout out to the East Coasters in here. All right, let me tell you something about MS-13. All right, if this guy comes back, he's gonna be beating his wife, beating others, and back to the bullshit. All the trafficking,
That was in like
everything he's up to
2019,
that,
but okay.
is alleged. He's gonna be back on his bullshit and even bigger. I don't think, I'll speak for myself, but I don't think my community wants or desires to bring those characters back. We are extremely happy for their deportations, and we are extremely happy that he can't come back, that he's trapped in El Salvador.
All right, come on, Dr. Great job.
This is. I was waiting for a question like this because this strikes at the moral perspective, not the fact-based legal perspective. And so there's this air of, we can't deport people like this because it's a slippery slope that results in injustice elsewhere. That strikes at a procedural, legal, slippery slope, a lot of things. But it doesn't ask the moral questions a community wants answered. In that, if this was the 1800s, they'd have thrown this motherfucker out of town.
He would have been lynched.
And if he came back,
he would have been lynched.
they would have fucking killed this guy if he came back. I don't want that to happen to anybody. But the point is, the way communities treat people who wrong them, there is a question there. So
I almost think Pisco should force a concession. Like, hold on. Just to be clear, you understand that our understanding, our conceptualization of law and holding people accountable for crimes has improved since then, right? What we do now is better than that process that you just called out, right? Like, otherwise, why would you even... I don't know why you would even reference that process, but...
I appreciate what you're asking about the moral
it.
question. What's the answer there?
We hate it, okay? Go ahead, no.
So you brought up the lynching. I just want to say, because I think that's an interesting point. I think there is a moral dimension to procedural questions, but I'm going to ignore it for the purpose of this because I do think that, I don't know if you guys ever watched The Hateful Eight. It's my favorite Tarantino movie, and one of the characters says that's frontier justice, and that's frontier justice. And the reason why we don't agree with that on a moral dimension is you're just as likely, you're likely to be wrong sometimes. And so here's my question for you: is Kilmar Abrego Garcia innocent until proven guilty of the crimes that the media is alleging him of doing?
He doesn't get to be judged by those terms because he's not a citizen of the United States.
Oh my God, dude, that's so cringe.
I just want to be clear. Do you believe either it is the case or it ought to be the case that non-U.S. citizens should not have trials for the crimes they're accused of?
I think that what you're referencing is like a waste of our money. So we should not be, there's no reason to bring him here, do all this bullshit. We've paid enough in Maryland, okay?
So the answer, no, you don't think non-citizens should get trials for the crimes they're accused of?
That's a loaded question.
How is it a loaded question? That's the opposite of a loaded question. That's just a direct question. It was a simple question. Do you think that do you think that people who are non-citizens should have trials for crimes? That's it. That's not loaded at all. It's a fair question.
Because the issue is, should somebody who lives in this country, permanent residents, versus an illegal immigrant adjudicated as MS-13 whose penalty is deportation. Right, here's the point. If someone comes here and breaks the law, and the end result is going to be deportation, how do we have a trial for them when they're gone? Why?
The end result for breaking the law in the United States is not deportation. I don't know where he's getting this from or where he got this idea from. It's very fucking weird.
force them to stay here if we're going to remove them anyway. So,
These are people who hate America, hate our community, they hate abiding by the law, they hate us, they hate U.S. citizens, and they just mooch and mooch and mooch while literally terrorizing our community and tearing us apart. They're like agent provocateurs.
well, let me ask you a question. Do you believe that an illegal immigrant should get their due process? That doesn't mean jury trial. It means the standard legal process that is fair under the law for determining whether they're a citizen.
No, I mean, yeah.
I think no, in that the original crime being that they came to this country illegally.
But that's what I'm asking you. The due process I'm asking if you would accept is a man is walking down the street, the cops stop him. The due process here is we must determine if he's a citizen or not. Should they do that?
They should determine if he's a citizen or not.
Under what process? Who do you trust to determine who's a citizen?
Border Patrol. I actually got pulled over by Border Patrol recently, and they did a great job.
Here's the problem. When you put a hole
What a crazy simp.
in due process, this is why I don't agree with these categorical exceptions. Once you put one hole in due process, now the government, just by their own discretion, is going to put everyone they don't like in that hole.
If you
They're
have
gonna
nothing,
accuse
no. If you have nothing to hide, you should have
That's
no.
classic neocon language.
Wow. If you have nothing to hide, then you should have no problem with the government digging through all your shit. Peace Corps should just own that, say, true, let's expand the ATF. We should have lists. The ATF should have an electronic database. We should have a better understanding of who has firearms in this country. Boom. If you have nothing to hide, there should be an issue, right? Oh, what's that? I'm sorry, you think the government would abuse of an electronic database of gun owners, but you don't think the government would abuse who they can deport or not? Really?
What the fuck
classic
are you
neocon
talking about?
language,
If you have
classic
nothing
Patriot
to hide,
Act language.
being pulled over by Border Patrol shouldn't be frightening.
What makes America great, right, is our structure, our Constitution, our way of life. So one of the people will often bring up to me the Carter Page FISA warrants that the Department of Justice got on Carter Page. You guys remember this, the Russiagate stuff,
By people,
right?
he means
Those Carter
Rob
Page
Noor.
warrants were wrongfully obtained. And you guys cared about them. Why do you care about them? You care about them because you don't want the government to intrude. This isn't even a matter of detention. It's not a matter of execution. I assume that you care. It's called a rhetorical. It's called, hey, dipshit. It's called a rhetorical question.
Bro, you gotta
dipshit.
come up.
Hey, dipshit. It's called a rhetorical question. Hey, dipshit. It's called a rhetorical question. You ever heard of it? Wait. So yes or no? Yes or no? Have you ever heard of a rhetorical
Don't call
question?
him a dipshit.
Dipshit.
Don't call me dipshit.
Wait, no, yes or no? Have you heard of a rhetorical question?
Wait. We will ask you to come up because
that's 4 minutes for indoctrinate. But
let's
wrap up.
if you've got a little bit more because we kind of went off. Just if you
No, seriously though, what do you say, Pisco, to the communities in Silver Spring, Gaithersburg, these communities who have for the last 40 years been inundated with these illegal immigrants and dreamers?
Freedom. This is what I say. I say freedom isn't free. Every time we give a trial every time we give a trial to someone who's an accused rapist, an accused murderer, it costs the state and the people of Maryland a lot of money. But the reason we do that is when we don't, we live at the discretion. When we don't, we live at the discretion of the state. And you shouldn't be government bootlicking shills that just trust the government to do everything you want.
True.
and while I can agree with the government shill stuff, what I will say is it's the only thing I heard there was it's not in my fucking backyard, so I don't give a shit.
That is bullshit. That is complete bullshit.
How much illegal immigration is going on up in Maryland? Like, what? Is it? Do they all get up there somehow? Is that?
Bullshit.
Bro,
That's a cop out.
I'm gonna tell you guys something I shouldn't fucking say. I've got property in the area with MS-13 now trying to occupy it. I had to fucking contact the FBI.
I don't believe this for a microsecond. Oh my God.
And so I've got these liberals who don't live here, who don't know that there are gunshots, that there are people running scared, and they're saying, bring this guy back. Now, I'm a pause.
Tim literally lives in the middle of fucking nowhere. In the middle of fucking nowhere. Like, it's the kind of place where you can't get an Uber anywhere because it's like so out of bounds.
I don't want false warrants or bullshit. The reason why I asked about due process under the law is for an illegal immigrant, if they're stopped, like you guys stopped by CBP, the law as it is now is an officer makes a determination if they're a citizen or not, and they have expedited removal, I believe, within 2 years. And I was talking to Myron Gaines about this the other day. He was an ICE agent, and he says, often we lock them up, get a plane, they send them home.
But that's a great
the
point,
due process.
Tim.
That's the due process.
This is a great point.
Real quick, we don't need a criminal trial after we say get the fuck out.
Wait.
Exactly.
When did you hear me? I just want to be clear. When did you hear me say that we need a trial? In fact, I went and I said, JD Vance is a fucking liar because he says we're asking for trials. What you just talked about, this proceeding in front of a judge, and really for expedited removal, it's not. It doesn't. It's usually like not even default a judge. It's just an immigration officer.
Agreed. That's
right.
We're
not talking here about a ton of due process.
And I agree with you on that.
So all we're talking about here are minimum standards. They didn't even they didn't give a notice before they left. They're trying to say that
You're
you can
saying
give 24-hour
freedom isn't
notice.
free, but you want them to stay here on our dime.
So it's costly, right? Having freedom is
What the fuck?
having.
Nobody wants
You
to
understand
pay
this?
that.
You understand this? Freedom is costly. The freedom of speech is costly. The freedom to bear, have guns.
Then make El
is
Salvador
costly,
pay.
right? So, yeah. So, but what is Trump doing? Trump is not making El Salvador pay. Trump is paying El Salvador. Trump is paying El Salvador when really he is entitled under our own law, right? Congress passes a law. Congress passes the Immigration Nationality Act, and it says we're going to bind the executive to these rules. What good is our country? What good is our society if we don't follow the rules we set for ourselves? Surely we must follow the law.
I want to say something, and I'm curious to hear Will's response. Let me say something, and I want to hear Will's response to this. I love the founding fathers. They were brilliant people.
Oh my God!
They
Shut
put
the
together
fuck up.
Gay.
the best government we've seen. But
Love another man gay.
now here's the issue. Here's the issue. They certainly did recognize emergency powers. They certainly did recognize when the executive would need to take actions that were considered probably extreme. We have seen instances throughout history. The challenge I see now is determining when we are facing an existential crisis and whether or not we're going to be like the Catalonians sitting on our hands like anarchists being like, well, we're being wiped the fuck out by invaders, but let's not do anything because we have a process to deal with. Or if we're going to step to attention and say, I understand the moral qualms with this process, how things are being handled, but holy shit, how do we deal with narco gangs, cartels, etc., when they're actively killing people, they're invading our homes? And so the question is, at what point do these platitudes of a democratic society, and I don't mean I want this to happen.
Just to be clear, okay, he calls them platitudes. The reason why your freedoms exist, the reason why these laws exist, and why these constraints on power exist to constrain the government in exactly the times that Tim is talking about. These are the most important times that the government can restrict itself. And the idea that when all hell breaks loose or whatever, or supposedly when all hell breaks loose, when the government can decide all hell is broken loose, that the government can abdicate any of these standards is the exact situation you're looking to avoid when you have a structured government. Like nobody needs protection in times of safety, or nobody needs the government to restrain itself in times of, mass prosperity and ordinary whatever. It's especially when shit gets a little bit wacky that you're hoping those constraints are the things that hold.
Happen. My question is legitimately, at what point do we have to say, holy shit, the system failed because we have been invaded?
Okay. Well, Alex, I'm going to answer his question.
And again, the privilege here, not to be wokey about it, but invaded, brother. Invaded. Hello, come on, come the fuck on.
And then you can start. Okay. So the answer is that the Constitution provides that flexibility, right? Like the due process that we're actually talking about here in all this context isn't really constitutional. It's statutory. The withholding of removal is a grant by statute. The Convention of Torture comes from a treaty, but it ultimately is implemented by statute. Congress can change the law and change what due process is entitled to. And if there is
Sorry, real quick to interject.
Yeah.
I hear this a lot, but it is not getting to the core. We know Congress doesn't fucking work. We know that we have a two-seat majority.
Too bad. We have a republic, not a dictatorship.
And I'm not advocating for one. I'm telling you that at a certain point, people start shooting motherfuckers. Because when the people who live in Maryland are like, MS-13 has shot a child in my neighborhood, they're not going to wait.
That's not what they're voting for. They voted for Van Hollen. They voted for... They voted for Van Hollen. They voted for Van Hollen.
You are misunderstanding.
Dude, the Dreamers voted for Van Hollen. Okay?
Yeah. So you want rule by minority. You guys want rule by minority government. And that's crazy.
Let's pause. I am not prescribing anything. I am describing something. Right now, Congress cannot answer these questions for anybody, nor are...
Again, nobody wants to, admit this, but I wish that more people, I wish people would bring this up. I don't even know if he agrees with this, but, Congress right now is doing, I think, a great job at representing where the American public is at legislatively. And where we're at is we don't even agree on what the fuck reality is. So when you look at Congress and say, Congress isn't doing its job, what do you mean? We're literally fucking 50-50 divided on not even agreeing on if a 100% tariff on every country in the world is good or bad. What the fuck laws would you expect a country to pass when you can't even believe on basic matters of what's real or not? The idea that Congress isn't agreeing and Americans aren't agreeing, therefore we can just bring in a president every single time and pray that him and the Supreme Court can on their own hash out what U.S. law should look like is delusional. You have to actually solve the problem of why the fuck can't Americans agree on anything? Why the fuck can't we get Congress together to actually pass some kind of legislation or anything as a governing body? Why do we have to keep relying on the president and the Supreme Court to fix everything for us? That's the issue. You can't ignore that or try to systemically patch that issue.
Are the courts, nor is the executive branch. You've got people split massively across this country, near 50-50, ready to tear each other's heads off. And the idea that Congress will change something is a pipe dream.
Well,
I'm not saying I want to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm saying what happens.
I mean, this is the reason. I mean, we might actually have a different interesting debate about the Alien Enemies Act at this point, right? Because this is where I would come back and say what Trump is doing. The Alien Enemies Act is right and just. The courts are overreaching, and so like Trump should continue.
Oh, I hope they dive into the Alien Enemies Act, or at the very least, can you admit? Okay, Trump said no new wars. That was a big reason why you voted for him, right? Can you admit that we are at war with Venezuela? You have to. I think that concession is essential. We are, according to the President of the United States, at war with Venezuela. I want to hear them say that because it's the only way the Alien Enemies Act applies.
But ignore the courts.
Well, I mean, at a certain point, like the ignoring and defying the courts is something that's been done historically.
So if the Supreme Court says you can't do this Alien Enemy Act invocation is invalid, you would say Trump, you should disobey that.
Depends on how depends on the reasoning of the Supreme Court.
If they say the president, we don't get to change your facts, just like the Texas. I don't know if you read the.
I read that Texas opinion. Yeah, if they use that logic, I actually think that should be defied. I don't think that the Supreme Court should have the authority to determine what a war is. I think that's such an obvious encroachment on.
So the answer is you can't facts, just like the Texas. I don't know if you read the.
I read that Texas opinion. If they use that logic, I actually think that should be defied. I don't think that the Supreme Court should have the authority to determine what a war is. I think that's such an obvious encroachment on.
And this is the issue that we run into. Like, he's right to some extent. The Supreme Court should not have the ability to determine what a war is. That, in my opinion, that is an incredibly big overreach of the Supreme Court. However, if the President of the United States is going to just start arbitrarily calling random shit wars, well, what the fuck are we doing, right? Imagine the President of the United States watches, I don't know, some fucking anime, and he doesn't like the ending, and he says that Japan is trying to destroy the American mind now by ruining the end of fucking insert whatever, anime here, and now we're at war with Japan. Like, at some point, we should be able to look at the president and be like, okay, hold on. Damn, actually, there is a better answer. There is a counter argument to what I just said, but I'm not going to bring it up. We'll see if he brings it up. Fuck this guy.
So the answer is Trump should defy the Supreme Court.
On that question, yeah.
He should. I am at the point where when Democrats called for packing the Supreme Court, I agreed with them. When Democrats arrested lawyers, I agreed with them.
What bullshit you agreed with the Dems back in the court? Show me that.
No.
Show me that clip.
Whoa.
Show me that clip. I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
When the Democrats said we have 13, 13 federal, what are they called? Districts? They're not districts, right?
There's Federal Circuit.
I think you're going to have to request to join Dean's Live to debate him. If he wants to debate me, I'll do it. I'll download whatever I need to do it.
There's circuits.
12 in Federal Circuit.
And there's only 9 justices. They said we need to add 4 more. I said, fuck yeah, we do when Trump wins, baby.
Oh, that's not what you said.
Like, that's nice. They're honest about it, right? Should we pack the court? Packing the court would be wrong. What if Trump does it? Then it would be based. Oh, okay. So at least we're honest about it.
That's not what you
Okay,
said.
all right, indoctrinate, guys. Indoctrinate. Before you go, how did George Floyd die? Will you tell him?
George Floyd. Oh my God, this is awkward, bro.
Okay, you're an African American. How did he die?
This is awkward also because
How did he die?
He overdosed.
No, he didn't. No.
Listen, wait.
So to be clear, I want to address this.
Let me just say this. It's awkward because I stand here, also known as the only black woman watching Timcast.
Yeah.
Wait a second. No,
I'm gonna tell you something, okay? This guy was a fucking menace to society.
So when you overdose on opioids, do you
Oh my God! Thank you. Somebody got this message to him. Or Pisco's been enjoying some recreational substances. It's so fucking stupid that you're ODing on downers by rolling around and screaming.
I'll go for life like this?
Have you ever seen a tweaker? Have you ever been to Baltimore?
So to be clear.
Whoa. You never seen a tweaker? Where do you live?
Guys, wait. He had meth in his system too.
So I encourage you to listen to the testimony of Dr. Tobin, who was the pulmonary cardiologist in that case. He was incredibly convincing, and it was the agonal breaths. And when you die of a dose like that, it's like you're falling into a sleep. It's not like you're struggling for your life like he was. Yeah.
I just want to say, Derek Chauvin showed up after Floyd was already on the ground and engaged in a hold that he was trained to by the Minneapolis Police Department.
Garbage.
And the defense, the prosecution actually argued on the continuum of force he was entitled to use more force than he used.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
There's 0% chance that Tim Pool watched any of this trial. Every single criminal court case that Tim Pool has ever brought up, he has always molested the facts of this case. For Ahmaud Arbery, he gets everything wrong. For everything I've looked up that he's talked about for the George Floyd case, he gets everything wrong. Every single time. For the J6 stuff, he knows nothing. Tim Pool has zero command of the facts. It's only whatever clips he's seen elsewhere or on whatever 5View, slop AI feed podcast get delivered to his phone.
I watched the whole trial.
They said,
I watched the whole. So, so to be clear, were they justified if they wanted to shoot him in the head?
No.
Why not? So would you say that
He's
application was
delusional,
deadly
guys.
force?
I know.
What, the kneeling on the neck, neck area?
Yeah. Okay. So after George Floyd stops struggling for his life because he's dead, is the application of force still justified after he's literally devoid of life?
Yes.
So when he's no longer, he could have. You're saying it was justified to use that hold indefinitely. Is that right?
I certainly didn't say indefinitely.
I'm asking you the question.
You just said it till after he's dead. What is that? How much longer for it to not be indefinitely? What?
Let me say this. I certainly never said indefinitely.
I'm asking.
But let me just stress. We're talking about kneeling on somebody after the fact. You didn't know what was going on. You showed up after the fact. And I will say this. There's, of course, degrees on continuum use of force. Chauvin showed up. He was already on the ground. He applied a hold that he was trained to do. I would argue it is fair to get him on some kind of negligent charge.
Oh, so he did do a crime.
All right, next.
He just said it. He just said it.
Peace Corps trying to get him on this. He did do a crime, but honest to God, I don't think that Tim doesn't even know what it means when he says crime. But yeah, Tim kind of fucked up there because negligent charge. So he did a criminal action, right? And if you're saying a negligent charge that led to death, it sounds like you're talking about some kind of manslaughter. So you agree then that he did do a homicide, but it was manslaughter. So now you're way more in the weeds than you were originally presenting yourself as being here. But okay.
He just said you should get him on a negligent charge.
What I love about this guy is
That's a crime.
He will take what you say in semantics, because Tim doesn't know anything about criminal charge or anything at all, really.
Take any morsel he can get and turn it into.
Wait, you just said right?
But you know this. Hey, since you are an attorney, you know that he has what is called qualified immunity. So
that's for civil matters. That's for civil. It's not for criminal. That's for damages cases and civil cases.
Why did the guy who simply held back the crowd go to prison?
You don't have qualified immunity as a cop.
Qualified immunity applies to civil damages cases, not to criminal matters.
Why did the man who was simply holding back the crowd go to prison?
Wait, no. Answer my question. Don't weasel out of it, all right? Don't weasel out of it. You just said, you agree, first of all, you agree that you should have charged Chauvin with the crime. You just said it, right?
Oh, that question is pussy shit.
Wait.
That question is pussy shit.
Yeah.
Bro,
all right, guys, we need to bring somebody new up. All right, we got to indoctrinate. Get your ass off the stage.
Okay,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, the guy in the beanie come up that's been going crazy.
We're enjoying ourselves.
Come on down.
We fist bump.
Yeah, you, come on down. Hurry up, dude. You got 1 minute. Guys, we only have a certain amount of time left, so we need to get this show on the road so we get as many people up here to debate. So go ahead, you got 1 minute.
So I don't understand, like, why you're arguing to people in a community that they should bring criminals back into it. Like, you argue things that you don't possess, like a moral dimension. Like, you don't give a fuck about America. You're on the side that kills children, 50 million babies in the last 50 fucking years, 325,000 children fucking sex trafficked, fucking 50,000 little girls had their because of the way your party fucking votes.
50,000 little girls? Was he going to say had their clits cut off? Genital mutilation? In what time span? How much is this happening? What, in the United States? There's going to be some appeal to Dearborn people. There's no shot that there were that many people. Or did he mean 50,000 children illegally sex trafficked? Or what was...
leading us to a path that only leads in violence, and I want to know fucking why.
He means trans?
Yeah, so...
sit down.
In the industry, we call that a gish gallop. So you just raise a bunch of different issues that are not topical, abortion, trans issues, and basically, like, you're doing anything, right? I can tell, to distract from the issue at hand, which is this just, and should it be brought back?
Point of order. Gish gallop doesn't apply when we actually tell him he gets 1 minute unfettered to make
to whatever.
Well, you can still get your minute.
He doesn't understand.
You still get your minute, but I'm just telling you, you're all over the place, all right? So try to stay focused. The issue isn't. So, would you agree that Kilmar Abreu Garcia has the right to the presumption of innocence of the people who are accusing him of crimes? Yes or no?
No.
Why are you continuing to argue positions that will bring society to violence?
So should there be a presumption of innocence? Yes or no?
For an illegal alien?
No.
He's not fucking innocent. He's here illegally. Deport him. Why do you want American citizens to pay more fucking money to bring him back to deport him again? That's fucking retarded.
Should U.S. murderers get trials?
United citizens do. If you're an illegal alien, you fucking don't. The due process is, are you a citizen? No. Okay, get the fuck out.
Calm the fuck down.
No,
right?
don't tell him to calm down.
I'll tell him to calm down. I'll tell him to calm down.
We love the passion, but we'll turn it.
You look like you're about to
Pump it up. Don't listen to those libtards or that libtard. Don't listen to them.
I grew up with a loud family, so 8 or 7 is my regular.
We have a constitution. We should follow it. That's what being American means. We should follow the fucking
then
constitution.
the fucking Biden administration shouldn't have let 20 fucking million illegals in.
What about So should we follow the Constitution or not, sir?
Yes.
Okay. So if the Constitution, so he just said we should follow the Constitution. If the Constitution says that these people do get due process rights, should we follow that?
So the Constitution.
Yes or no?
No.
So you don't think we should follow the Constitution when you decide?
How about asking me why on my opinions instead of just fucking assuming like every fucking midwit leftist does?
This is a lot. So he said we should follow the Constitution, and then the next thing I asked him, I said, if it says that these people should get rights under the Constitution, should we follow? He says no. So explain that.
And so let me interject here, because I think I know exactly what you're saying when you brought up Biden letting in 20 million illegal immigrants. As Bill Ackman stated, a country that lets in 20 million people unvetted, but then cannot remove them, will lose its democratic values. An untenable. Listen, I want due process for every.
You want to literally get rid of the democratic values, though. You want to get rid of democratic values to save democratic values? Okay, Chief.
Everybody, I want constitutional rights where they apply. I am scared and confused right now because we have an untenable situation with immigration caused by Democrats. I don't know what to do. So when you come out and say we are now shackled to a system that will kill our country, I say I don't know that anyone will accept that.
All we can do is tell the left to stop because you're leading us towards violence. You are leading the country towards violence. Fucking stop. Every one of your arguments is wrong and full of every fucking logical fallacy we can think of. Shut the fuck up. Stop arguing for fucking destroying our country.
So the enemy is within. The people who are destroying this country, are the bootlicking shills. The bootlicking shills who just trust the government. Listen,
like fucking Democrats with the Biden administration?
No,
you guys
like
didn't
you.
criticize a single fucking thing they did.
Guys. No one in this room trusted the government under the Biden administration. You did. One guy did. All right, we're good. The point is, when you say they're bootlicking shills, it's every 4 years the Democrats say you're a bootlicking shill, then 4 years later they're the bootlicking shills.
So just to be clear, the reason why we want to follow the Constitution, even if there are people you don't like, and you can raise a lot of things about people you don't like and why we should break the law to go after them, is we don't trust in the next 4 years, you're not going to get a president AOC, you're not going to get a president, whoever the fucking worst leftist is that you think. And now that you've made a road through the Constitution, you've made a road for your own back, and they're going to come after you, and they're going to attack your First Amendment rights. You guys all understand this.
They already did.
Whatever we have to stop you because you've been eroding it for centuries.
So the real enemies are those who tell you to give up your country, give up the Constitution, don't follow it.
You took our fucking country with the Biden administration.
This is why I brought up the question before to hear Will. Will's like a very straight-laced forward. I'm a lawyer. I'll answer his questions. That's why I wanted to hear what he had to say about it. Here's my view. You guys know me. When I was young, I despised the Bush administration. Obama came in, and before he did, I was like, everyone's telling me it's going to be different. Then, boy, that motherfucker killed a lot of people and spied on people. And the National Defense Authorization Act, indefinite detention provision. I said, holy shit, fuck these people. Then Trump ran against Hillary, and I said, holy fuck, this country is insane. Trump wins, and for the most part, I'm like, I don't care for this shit. Then the Democrats started losing their fucking minds with DEI. And weird fucking shit. And then Trump in 2020 said, I got no new wars. I'm setting up a timeline for withdrawal from Afghanistan. I'm getting rid of DEI and government contracting. And I said, actually, this is pretty good. But what did they do to the man for those 4 years? They accused him of being a traitor to this country. Then after this, they started arresting his lawyers. They falsely accused him of crimes. They claimed that a misdemeanor charge, which arguably could be a single count, was 34 felonies. They created a new law in New York so that a woman can say 30 years ago he sexually abused me. I can't prove it. I wore a dress from the future, and I had a magic key to open the door. And I'm sitting here watching numerous Trump lawyers get arrested. Now we're in the Trump administration, and they're begging me, please, stick to decorum. Don't arrest lawyers. Don't arrest judges. Like, motherfucker, you did it first. You did this to us, and now we're upset and saying, what do we do?
Welcome to the Civil War you started.
We can justify anything because they've already done it, right? When you control history, I guess you can write whatever future you want as well, because we can do anything we want because they've already done everything we're accusing them of doing, or we've ever accused them of doing. Nice.
All right, guys, give it up. What's your name? Say your name before you go.
I'm Nicholas Steinbrecher, lost and found on Discord, also representing the Jamcast Discord.
Thank you, Nick. All right, now our next debater, their name is Cash.
Did you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to have like a quick point.
Did you agree with that Unhinged guy?
No, I mean, I don't agree with him, obviously, right? Like, he's a little more aggressive than I would be. But I think my substantive point would be that, like, much of your argument is, like, we really need to not open Pandora's box, and I would just say I think Pandora's box has been opened pretty darn widely, so.
All right, Cash, you got the mic. The floor is yours.
All right, guys, I'm warning everyone here. I am a libtard. I think I'm one of the only ones in the room.
Oh, my gosh, somebody going to argue with me?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Thank you, Pisco, for inviting me.
He needs a break.
Of course. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Grab the mic and hold it up so we can hear you.
So I'm an American exceptionalist. I love this country. I love this Constitution. I think Pisco brought up this point. I mean, I
can read out like the amendment that says that people have the rights to due process, regardless if you are a illegal or a citizen. I think that just needs to be cleared up first. That Pisco is the pro-Constitution person here. Every single person, I heard them screaming in the room saying illegal immigrants don't get due process. That is against the Constitution, just to clarify that first. Second of all, I also think it's important to acknowledge that I trust the U.S. government more so with processing someone that we'd all agree is probably a bad guy, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, than some random, prison in El Salvador. I think we have a good justice system, as many of you guys might disagree. It's crazy to me that you guys disagree with the 6 Republican Supreme Court justices that said that we need to facilitate his return. Rule of law is very important in this country. And I don't know what you guys would be saying. I think Pisco hinted at this. If AOC becomes president and all of a sudden says that the January 6ers are a bigger threat to this country than the illegal immigrants, then deports them with no due process, you guys will all be crying your asses out.
True.
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 Brother, let me just respond to that. That already happened.
Bullshit.
There it is. That already AOC was the president and deported J6ers? What?
Those people got trials. Everyone in the J6, and then they all got due process. All of them got due process. And then these criminal terrorist insurrectionist thugs got let out by the criminal in the Oval Office right now, illegally occupying the office.
I would just like to ask a procedural question to our lawyer friends here. If evidence is denied to the accused parties, is that due process?
Yeah, it wasn't denied. It would be a violation of due process. But it wasn't actually. It wasn't actually denied.
That's not what I asked.
Whether the evidence is admissible, right? And so
it would depend if it's admissible. It's also it's a whole doctrine on Brady that would apply, and so I would need to know the specific facts. And also, I'm not an expert on Brady.
So what did we have? 44,000 hours of footage. Not that
this was a lie, and this was denied on the merits in the courts.
True.
No. That's not no. Go for it, Will.
This 44,000 hours. I think this talking point started with Tucker Carlson, but this is all bullshit. It's all fucking bullshit.
Okay, the actual the best argument about the failure of due process in the J6 cases was the fact that change of venue motions got denied. Yeah. There's no excuse that any of these trials happened in D.C.
where the crime was committed
in a 97% Democratic
district.
Who
the fuck?
What? I'm sorry, I could be wrong. Since when is venue or jurisdiction or appropriate jury determined based on political affiliation? Has that ever been the case? On political breakdown? You have the right to reject members of the jury if you want, but if people, I'm curious, case law, I guess, have people moved have people changed venues before or changed courthouses because there are too many Democrats in this district?
Cares? You committed the crime in a place. You do the time there. You do the trial.
Whoa! I thought you cared about fair trials.
Wait. So
what a dumb piece of shit! I thought you cared about fair trials. So we're gonna ship these people all over the United States to stand trial in a venue that makes absolutely no sense. Here you are in Atlanta, Georgia. We've brought in a trial of your peers to figure out whether or not you committed a crime in D.C. Would they have the original jurisdiction and everything over this particular crime? What? In what world would this ever make sense?
Why did that happen?
Whoa.
It's a white guy. You don't want a fair trial anymore, do you?
Oh my God.
Doesn't the Constitution specify? Doesn't the Constitution specify that there is a venue provision that when you commit a crime, it shall be tried in the district in which it was committed?
Yeah, but that venue is not defeated by due process and the right to a fair trial.
There's a presumption that a jury is able to put aside their bias, their political bias.
Yeah, but that presumption is not absolute. What happens if a black defendant is facing a jury of all white and the prosecutor's excluding?
It's a high burden.
Are we saying that a person's political affiliation is the same here necessarily as the race? Also, I'm pretty sure, I think you can reject, actually, I'm not actually sure if you can reject jurors based just on their race as well. I don't actually know for a qualification for pool of rejecting jurors. I've never heard of changing venue though because of the political makeup of some district.
Burden to get rid of that jury.
I don't know. I mean, well, think about this.
Think about this.
Whoa! I'm not saying that. No, I'm saying it's a high burden to show that it's racially, unconstitutional.
I mean, you see, if you look at the polling, I want to make this point because this is, I think, the key issue, which I think liberals have lied all the time. You look at the polling on, for example, whether liberal parents would be happy if their child came home with a conservative partner to marry. They're not. And in fact, in general, this number is higher than in a world where, than cross-racial. So, I mean, I'm sorry, the way that there's polarization in this country between Republicans and Democrats, which is literally demonstrated by this room, and also a lot of, the things, Deborah, things you've said about, the people in this room, is demonstrating that there's not a jury of your peers in the J6.
You know what? I'm fucking so retarded. Pandana, you're absolutely right. Destiny, it's a self-report. You're right, it is a self-report. What they're saying is that if they were on a jury and it was a Democrat, they would always vote to convict. And if it was a Republican or anybody related to Daddy Trump, they would always vote to exonerate or not convict. Every single time. You're absolutely correct.
Sixers didn't get fair trials.
Let me ask you another question.
Imagine the federal court system we've created where every time somebody commits a crime and there's federal jurisdiction and they're tried to federal court, they have to be shipped to a swing state to try the crime. What the fuck?
Due process if the prosecution uses...
Also, wait, I'm curious. Does DC... Oh, they don't even have real electoral votes or whatever. Do they get an electoral vote? I don't remember. Does DC actually go 97% Democrat? Is that even true? Is that the split? DC vote president 2024. %. Okay. That is really significant. Do they get an electoral vote? I forget. Yes, they do. They get 3 of them. Okay. Then why do these motherfuckers cry about no representation? You guys you don't need Congress.
Uses information from after the trial happened to seek a greater sentence on the individual based on speech of the individual.
No, why would it be
necessarily?
That is not.
It gets to whether or not you have regret, whether or not you. There are factors of sentencing that you're able to, that the judge has discretion.
Greater sentence on the individual. The prosecutor.
And the J6ers didn't get fair trials.
Let me ask you another question. Is it due process if the prosecution uses information from after the trial happened to seek a greater sentence on the individual based on speech of the individual?
When it comes to sentencing, I'm pretty sure you're allowed to bring in a whole bunch of extra. Now, for the conviction, that's like you've got your rules of evidence and everything. But once you're past, like if they've been convicted and the judge is now in the sentencing thing, I think the judge is allowed to consider a wide variety of out of court statements. You don't have to have you're not probing for proper evidentiary bullshit. Now, I don't think you could just make fucking shit up, but statements that the person says and everything, I think you could absolutely, or the conduct of a person in court. There's a reason why you're supposed to be deferential and apologetic, and you have your allocution statements. You're I'm sorry, I understand I've hurt the family and all this. And if you fuck this up, or if you go hard and you're fuck you, judge, this is some bullshit, I'm appealing this shit, get me the fuck out of here, you're gonna get fucked in your sentencing. The judge is gonna throw the book at you.
No, why would it
Not
be
necessarily?
That is not.
It gets to whether or not you have regret, whether or not you. There are factors of sentencing that you're able to, the judge has discretion to weigh.
Your speech.
That aren't. Yes. So, for example, I'll give you a case like Martin Shkreli. You guys know Martin Shkreli?
Of course, yes.
Oh,
So Shkreli and this
Hillary
is actually,
Clinton
I think
thing.
Shkreli can be funny sometimes, but he talked shit about Hillary Clinton when he had his trial or something.
He did more than talk shit. He fucked up. It was a pretty dumb tweet. I think it was a tweet or a Facebook post. He said something about paying somebody who could ever deliver to him a lock of Hillary Clinton's hair. So really, really dumb. That was really dumb. Well, I don't know if that was after he was already convicted or what, but oof.
The judge, sentence him more. Now, you might disagree with that, but it just is the case that judges are allowed a great deal of discretion at sentencing, and that's our system.
Okay, can I introduce kind of a new topic a little bit? Because I feel like we're going to bounce down the...
Yeah, you got less than a minute, though.
Well,
Go ahead.
let's give him time.
We haven't had a liberal yet. The entire night.
That's what I'm saying. We'll talk. Hey, Cash, say something. Gosh,
I think that Pisco hinted at, and I was kind of talking about this in my opening speech, is that what's important to recognize here is that it sets a precedent. These laws set a bad precedent. I think we should also talk about Mahmoud Khalil. I go to Georgetown. There was a guy that was in our grad department that got deported for supporting Palestine, literally just for supporting Palestine. I just want to hear the conservatives here that if AOC gets elected and designates Israel as a terrorist state,
Yes! If Israel designates if AOC, well, it'd be Israel anyway, Zog, right? If AOC were to designate Israel as a terrorist state, can we start deporting people when they support the IDF as a terrorist organization? It's a good question.
A bunch of pro-Israel people.
But the problem is, he doesn't realize these are not older MAGA, these are young MAGA, meaning they're Nazis. So they'll all say, fuck Israel.
Jewish, I'm pro-Israel. I'd be afraid of that. You conservatives have opened the floodgates
100%.
for free speech to be completely violated.
Wait.
Because Trump is breaking these laws.
I will answer this.
It takes two to tango with these laws.
I will answer your point.
Will
If
says,
you manage to get AOC to be president, and she, in her bizarre wisdom, not wisdom, right? But if she decides to say, you know what, if we think the IDF is a terrorist organization, you manage to classify it as such, and then you say Israelis who advocated on behalf of the IDF, she would have the authority to do so under our laws. She could deport Israelis.
She has authority to give them due process.
Wait, bro. I would argue that a large, I don't know the exact numbers, but the Trump base is split between anti-interventionist, bye-bye Israel, and pro-Israel. There's a lot of people who are pro-Israel, but when the argument you make about the conservatives, you're going to find a lot of them are more conservatarian, being yeah, I don't give a shit about Israel.
That's his point. He's trying to... He's
is that a real thing? Is conservatarian a real political ideology? I have no idea.
Not disagree, they're going to cheer you on.
No, we're engaging in a hypothetical.
Here's my point.
Wait,
I guess the fundamental answer is I'm happy with the Khalil deportation. The guy hates our country. He's a guest. He can go home. Sorry, you want to go out there and be
I think people that rioted the Capitol hate this country more than someone criticizing foreign policy.
True.
Destroy the Capitol should be deported immediately. That is the same feeding this country. Feeding this country. Some of them are not citizens that destroy the Capitol.
I got a question for Will. You said he's a guest in our country.
Oh, Will.
Yeah.
Wait. He's a guest in our country. He hates our country, so we could deport him.
Yes.
And that is the State Department has the discretion just to say, we revoke your visa. Is there a specific criteria by which you think they're required, or do you think it's unilateral? No, you're a guest, get the fuck out.
Under law, I mean, honestly, the Secretary of State, I mean, there's a provision that was used in this case, which is the Secretary of State said, this guy's continued presence in the country is damaging to American foreign policy.
That is very vague. AOC's president.
Sure, I understand that it's slippery slope, but I just think that's the law.
President AOC in 2029 says, Steven Crowder, you are a guest in this country, get the fuck out.
True. He's a citizen, so that doesn't
Viva Fry.
Steven Crowder's on green card.
Viva Fry?
Viva
Fry, better start enjoying poutine again, because he's got to go back. I said he's got to enjoy poutine again, because he's got to go back to
All right,
Canada.
so here's a question, right?
We love you, Viva.
Under that framework, Will, just a quick question.
Okay.
The First Amendment, relates to speech. It also relates to the religion clauses. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So, under that discretion, what can the State Department say? Muslims, as a general rule, are damaging, prejudicial to our foreign policy interests, and then we're going to get rid of them.
That's an interesting question, because I'm not sure. I'm not sure there's a statutory. I mean, I guess you could make an argument. I haven't really thought about that one.
The question is, it doesn't matter what the INA says if it violates a right, like free
right, but I think
clause.
the Supreme Court's already resolved this. There's just not a First Amendment defense to removal, right? I don't think there is.
Of course there is. Defend their right to speak on foreign issues.
I do really like this question because it also strikes at how do we define religion legally? And if we're dealing with terrorist organizations, would we allow them to use religion as a shield for their extremist ideologies, or do we separate that legally?
Right, because that also if religion, free practice of religion, then it's like you can't. Maybe supporting a terrorist organization is a core religious belief.
But just be clear. So you're opening the door. Is it Caleb? Sorry, Cash. Sorry. As Cash said, if you're going to allow this big room, this big hole in the First Amendment for certain speech in favor of Hamas, now you're opening the door for if you're a Christian and you're not a citizen, we can deport you just because you're a Christian.
You invaded the Capitol. You're not a citizen.
I want to say to you what you said. Just to answer your question, you said if President AOC. What you described, most people feel happened already with Biden.
And they're wrong. What do you mean? Wait, explain it wrong.
No, it's not wrong that someone felt that way.
Oh my God. The facts over feelings party. They felt it because people like you lied to them.
Wrong. What do you mean? Wait, explain it wrong.
No, it's not wrong that someone felt that way.
Yeah, but I feel that you're all wrong.
Yeah, I feel that you're wrong.
And I do agree that you feel we're wrong. My point is, you said
you're saying nothing. I don't understand.
You said how would you feel if AOC became president?
It's a way of asking the question.
Obviously, you understand. What I'm trying to point out is the hypocrisy here. That of course, if AOC started deporting people that are dangerous,
the circumstance you described already happened.
No,
he's asking you to actually
did. There were Israeli advocates of who were opposed to the two-bank solution, and Biden denied their visas simply on the grounds.
Whoa, denying a visa is different than someone already in the country. That's a lie. You're lying purposely.
I am not lying. You're
talking about
you literally you're making a false equivalency. Obviously, denying a visa is different. It is basically the same. You're intentionally misrepresenting a case for political points.
He could just be wrong, or he could just disagree with
them.
You're not lying. You're not lying.
Let me tell you a story, and I want to hear your reaction to it.
Please.
There was a man and a woman in their mid-40s. Several hours after the event of January 6th, they were in D.C. They live in Maryland.
Every single time, I'm not going to be familiar with exactly what you're bringing up, but every single time, I'm not exaggerating, I'm not being hyperbolic. Actually, we will look this up. I was going to say, every single time he brings a case up and he quotes it and it sounds ridiculous, when you look at the actual facts, it's never what he says. But we'll see what he says here. Maybe we can find
walked up on the backside of the Capitol where there was no violence in D.C. They live in Maryland. They walked up on the backside of the Capitol where there was no violence and nothing was going on. The doors were open. There were no barricades. They walked up to the building. No police in sight. They walked into the building and looked around taking pictures and walked out after about 3 or 4 minutes. Should they go to prison?
It depends.
On what?
I love that answer. It's the ultimate one.
It depends.
Sure, I'll say intuitively no, sure.
So they fucking did.
Okay, do you know what's great, though? Is that they now have due process and they're going to go through. And
100%.
Does anybody have a name or any idea of what the fuck he's talking about? The names of the people that he's talking about?
If a court finds I understand. My point was, what you describe about AOC going after people happened to people who bumbled upon the Capitol not knowing what was going on.
Sam, I have a question.
Yeah.
If AOC took that case and just deported them instead of getting due process, would you be more mad?
Deported American citizens. I would be mad, yes.
Okay, sorry.
Do you
understand? If there are two people on green cards, like walking out,
I'll be mad.
Well, he says he wants. You agree? He said he wants to do that, right?
And it's wrong to have said it.
Okay, cool.
And it should never happen. And I will.
So do you condemn him for saying it?
I condemn. Well, let me.
Multiple times.
Right. Let me say this.
You won't because you're beholden to the administration.
You condemn him for being his wife.
I want to try to help people understand things. So let me give you an answer. Piers Morgan asked me the other day, if Joe Biden did the things Trump did, would you praise him for it? And I said, no, probably not. You asked me before the show.
That's unhinged,
something
right?
similar. And I said, the issue is that Donald Trump largely represents my moral worldview, which means I'm tolerant of his failings.
So morals mean you could violate the Constitution. That's what you're saying.
Let me finish what I'm saying.
Your morals, your subjective morals can violate the Constitution.
What I'm saying.
Sorry,
Joe
Tim.
Biden largely represents things that are antithetical to my worldviews. This is not about whether or not someone could violate the Constitution, because I already told you Trump sending Americans to CICA is a bad thing, and
But you won't condemn him for saying it.
Okay, so you condemn him for violating the Constitution. Just
saying
please
it, for saying
say
it.
yes, and I'll let you finish.
You are loading the question.
I'm not loading the question. It's literally he violated the Constitution. Do you support it? Yes or
We
no?
are talking about if he were to do something, not did he do something.
If he already did something, we're asking you to
If
condemn
Donald Trump sent American citizens to CICA, I would condemn him for
But
that.
he said he wants to do it, so do you condemn that?
I condemn those statements.
Okay,
yes.
cool.
Oh, there you go.
100%.
I appreciate that.
I also will tell you this. Donald Trump should be criminally investigated for the killing of Abdurrahman al-Awlaki's little sister in Yemen. He gets no free
So
passes
brave.
from me, but we don't know for
brave.
sure.
So brave.
What we do know is that
So
Obama
brave.
admitted to it. We know there's been accusations about Trump. My response is accusations warrant investigation, admission warrant something more substantial.
And yet, when it comes to Trump administration officials and their misconduct, like Signalgate, for example, he'll say
That was an inside job. Go ahead.
So what he'll do is
With all due respect, with respect to your statements on Signalgate, and for time,
Oh, yeah, okay.
I just don't. I understand Signalgate, but I don't think it rises to. I lay two things forward. Trump has been accused of murdering a 7-year-old American girl. Obama admitted that his administration killed a 16-year-old American citizen. Neither of them were criminals. I don't want to muddy that with Signalgate because there's such a substantive.
Wait, Tim, I think you got sidetracked from your point on Piers Morgan, though. Were you going to finish that? Why do you think that it's okay if Joe Biden does terrorist, but Trump doesn't? Can you defend that to me?
That was my point. My
Just
point
because
is that
Trump is more moral.
Let me explain.
That's called moral inconsistency. Sorry,
no,
please,
it's called. Listen.
Listen.
Donald Trump wants to secure our borders. Our
Okay.
borders should be secure.
Based.
Donald Trump wants to enforce the law that I think should be
Okay.
enforced properly.
Based.
Joe Biden was advocating for child sterilization. Okay.
Jesus
child sex
Christ.
change operations.
Biden.
I think
What were you
are pure
doing?
evil. Joe Biden took classified documents with him and explicitly stated it was because he wanted to write a book that he could sell.
And then he complied with the FBI when they asked him for it. Guess what Trump didn't do when he had documents?
And his ghostwriter
True.
destroyed the evidence, worried that it was something wrong. My point is this.
His ghostwriter, not Joe Biden, to clarify.
You and everybody else in this country has a moral worldview.
Yes.
It is the utmost naivete to say, no, I don't, I'm on principle. Not true at all. Not true at all.
Yeah, but that doesn't respond to. All right, come on, calm down. What you're saying doesn't really respond to what I'm asking. If you have morals, are some of those morals to say not fuck up the economy with tariffs or violate the Constitution?
I'm pro-tariff.
You're pro-tariff?
I'm not pro universal tariffs the way Trump did. I'm
my
pro his
God.
selective
So,
tariffs.
just clarify, I watched that Piers Morgan.
I'm not pro universal tariffs the way Trump did. I'm pro his selective tariffs.
Just clarify,
His
I watched
selective
that Piers Morgan
tariffs?
thing. You
So
said,
then
you
not
said
his
Trump handled
tariffs.
he asked about like the economy doing bad, and then you were like, yeah, if Joe Biden did the exact same thing, I wouldn't defend it. What
So
you're saying does not answer
let-
that question at all. You understand that, right?
Let me try and explain it again.
Yes.
The simplest way I can do it without going into like, I don't know, the Qatar-Turkey pipeline, the Suez Canal, the Crimea, and all of the things we can talk about with Mykola Zlochevsky, Biden's actions overseas. We don't need to get into that.
Sure.
I'll just keep it surface level and as
Please.
simple as possible.
Thank you.
Biden is for child sex changes. Trump
So
opposed.
that means that if he does
Let
something.
me answer your
Yes,
question.
Okay, sorry. I
Now,
love you, I
do
promise.
you want me to give you a 1-hour essay thesis on everything Joe Biden did that I think was criminal, wrong, and
Hey,
he should go to
Biden,
jail
we
for?
get it.
I'm trying to avoid doing that by
Based.
saying very simply, what Donald Trump represents morally, as for America, is much more in line with my worldview. I can get into great detail on the Burisma scandal if you want me to, or Tony Bobulinski, or Devin Archer.
We should have
I
that
can,
debate,
I
by
can
the
get
way.
into all
And
of
we
it.
don't have that much time, 'cause we
No,
gotta
no,
kick
hold
him
on.
off
He wants to hear about the Qatar-Turkey pipeline. Okay, so in 2009,
Oh my God.
we don't wanna go there.
2009.
But I absolutely could. For the sake of time, I will just say this: Trump, in my opinion, universal tariffs doesn't make sense. I am skeptical of it, but I am largely biased in favor of Trump's moral worldview and hopeful that his administration has a plan that will bear out positively. That being said, I'm not entirely sure universal tariffs do. Selective tariffs I'm a big fan of because I believe, being a manufacturer of skateboards, I can tell you directly as an industry how free trade destroyed an industry and destroyed people's lives.
Okay, sure. I guess
So Joe Biden,
you did respond. And you just
let me-
reaffirmed what you said.
And now Joe Biden, with all the things he's done that I think are bad, were he to enact universal tariffs, I do not trust him because I believe him to be an amoral crackpot. So I would not give him the benefit of the doubt.
So what you're saying is that you cannot acknowledge when something is bad just because the person might have a good intention?
I
You're saying
literally
because
said the tariffs were done poorly, and that I'm skeptical of them.
Okay. So I
Skeptical.
support universal
Skeptical.
tariffs, but when Biden does it, you don't.
I do not support
No, he
universal
said
tariffs.
selective tariffs. Okay, Cash, get off.
Okay, sorry. My friend Alex and Max.
Thank you for coming up. That was
Tim,
great.
Thank you, Cash. Okay, hold on.
Guys, I love all of you. You just got to read the Constitution better. Much love.
Okay, thank you. All right, now, is it transgender? Do you have balls enough to come up here yet? I know. Well, then come and tell us about it. Come on, we only have a couple people. Come on, you don't get to come here and not say something. Oh my
Hey,
God!
hey,
You know, it's funny for not having a pussy. You sure act like one.
Somebody said he thinks a couple people have linked this. These are the people that Tim Pool was talking about. A couple from South Baltimore's Cherry Hill neighborhood were arrested Tuesday on charges related to the U.S. Capitol riot, January 6, 2021, federal court records show. Tyrone McFadden Jr., and Carrie Ann Williams were arrested on charges including disorderly conduct in a restricted building and disorderly conduct in a Capitol building, according to arrest warrants. McFadden and Williams told law enforcement that they are engaged and live in Cherry Hill, according to an affidavit from an FBI special agent. The affidavit said the two were tagged in a Facebook photo taken at the Capitol, along with Aaron James Milieu, an Alaska man arrested in March 2021. Other videos and photos provided to the FBI show a man and a woman who appear to be McFadden and Williams inside the Capitol Rotunda on January 6th. The affidavit said Google records and security video footage also placed the couple inside the Rotunda, with footage showing them entering the Capitol at about 2:46 p.m. Wait, what? Okay. When McFadden and Williams were interviewed by the FBI, they said they were outside the Capitol that day, but they never entered the building. Oof, so they lied. Nice. I believe this was false and that Williams and McFadden were untruthful in that interview, the agent wrote in the affidavit. In a Young Patriots Society video on YouTube called Storming the Capitol, and described in the affidavit, McFadden and Williams were interviewed alongside a person who said we were definitely within the first 100 to 150 people to get into that building. Oof, okay. Oh, how did Tim present this? They just wandered up towards the end and they just happened to be on the grounds? If these are the two people he's referring to, it probably is. Yeah, we were too. We definitely were too, Williams said in the video. They were going to lock us in there. You know what I'm saying? They bombed us twice, McFadden said. On January 7th, 2021, Williams and Milieu discussed taking down Facebook videos and photos they had posted, according to the affidavit. Still had a blast, but calling us domestic terrorist, Williams wrote to Muir on Facebook. I'm not taking the pics down, though. Court records show that McFadden and Williams were released on personal recognizance. A status hearing is scheduled for November 17th. Okay. Tim said they were from Maryland? Yes, South Baltimore couple arrested in connection. Yes, okay. Baltimore is in Maryland. Okay, yes. Fuck you. Stop making me doubt my sanity.
There's a certain amount of no's we'll respect.
I know. Okay. All right. Is that Tyler, right? Have you been one? No. What's your name in the hat? Did you submit, T-Bone?
No, my boss did.
Okay, well then let's get the black dude. Come on down, T-Bone.
We know this guy.
I took a lot of notes. All right.
Yeah,
so I want to go ahead and I want to go to your point, Alex. You were talking about Lake and Riley, right? But also the entitlement programs. We forgot about that and about all the money that was spent through all the illegal immigrants. As soon as they came in, they had a bunch of I don't know if there's a bunch of cards with money on them, but I was at the airport, I believe it was last year, and I had somebody walk up to me, and he was an immigrant, and he said, and he talked to me in Spanish, and I knew a little bit of Spanish, but he gave me a bunch of, here we go, he gave me a bunch of cash and was like, hey, can you help me get to New York? I just need you to buy a ticket. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't do that. But he had a wad of cash, and he had a backpack on his thing, and he had this app on his phone.
The CBPD.
Now, do you guys remember about the
CBP one?
Yes.
Yeah,
oh
CBP
my
one.
God.
Right. But anyways, so
that fucking app.
You said to close the border, right? That will solve all the issues. But how do you get with a president before that sabotaged our own country and sabotaged our borders, allowing all of these other people to come in, and now you're telling the other president that no, you have to follow some sort of standard.
Sit down. Thank you. Good job. Great job.
There are, people will use these examples, and first of all, let's be clear. Some of these benefit programs are state-run, some of them are federally run, and one of the reasons why these people are given benefits at all is because oftentimes they don't have authorization to work. Okay, when you're applying for asylum, you can get an EAD, but you have to wait a certain amount of time before EAD is an employment authorization document.
Okay?
You have to wait a certain amount of time before you can apply for EAD. And so in the interim, you're literally making it illegal for this person.
Yeah, but 20 million people?
What do you mean?
20 million people are applying for this?
So you're saying 20 million people crossed the border illegal and have entered into the country. So I think that number is inflated. It's not true. But I'm going to take
it. Let's say 10.
10, 15. So because it calculates.
Notice how the actual number doesn't really matter because nobody truly actually really knows. Right?
But not everybody is a beneficiary of those programs. On net, once you give them EADs, these people are putting money into our entitlements. Literally, they're given tax numbers so that they can pay into things like Social Security and Medicare, and they're never going to get those benefits from those. So when you let them work, and I'm not saying that I agree with illegal immigration. I don't agree with illegal immigration, but it's just a function of the fact that otherwise these people are going to be like, I don't know, dying on the street.
No, remember when we came onto your show in Scrapjaw, and he was talking about how he went over to Springfield, Ohio, right? And there was a bunch of issues, not necessarily what we thought was the problem, which was people were eating dogs and cats, whatever. But he was talking about how there were a bunch of immigrants that had money that were paying for cars that didn't have licenses, that didn't have insurance on these vehicles, and they were wrecking these vehicles. Now the problem was those vehicles, he would take them back to his not to a shop, but like the yard. where they tow, right? But they couldn't take the vehicles. But why? Because of these issues. So what exactly are we supposed to do when we have a president beforehand that caused all of these issues, and now we have to I'm going to assume pay for that?
Yeah. But it's also a function of we don't have the capacity to solve that. Like the manpower, the labor, and the resources to rectify all those problems.
But we do have the capacity for like $1 trillion in tax cuts.
Whoa, those are two different things.
So
it's completely unrelated.
to be clear, like we say that we don't have the capacity, but these tariffs that you say you don't agree with, they've wiped out a ton of wealth in this country. People are against them, and the poll numbers is economic progression going down.
I feel like you're dodging the question entirely.
I want to address. Let's assume that everything you're saying in terms of what the previous administration did was wrong, illegal, immoral, however you want to say it. Why is illegal immigration wrong? Can I ask you?
Well, could you do the same thing into another country? Can we go to another country?
No, you can't. Did he seriously say that? Your evaluation for what's right or wrong is based on what people can do in other countries? What?
Why is it wrong for someone to come into the country legally?
Oh, well, you see, well, exactly, because, hold on, guys. Well, we see why, right? Look at what happened in Italy, all right? You saw what happened on that island. They got ransacked by a bunch of people. There's only 7,500 people that lived there, and there were tens of thousands that just overran that entire island. Look at what's going on in the UK with all the stabbings. Look at what's going on in Canada with all the issues that are going on.
So is the
so in the UK and Canada, I don't think those have to do with illegal immigration. I think that has to do with just immigration, period. It's interesting that he's going to examples of legal immigration that he doesn't like to say why we don't need illegal immigration. I think it's telling because truly these people just don't want any immigration at all. That's what they really mean. That's what they really are trying to say. And it's important to get that because, yeah.
I'm hearing crime. I'm hearing economic considerations. I'm hearing fiscal impact. So Trump, for instance, has said he wants immigration. He wants more immigration. Yes. He just wants it to be legal, right? You've heard him say that.
Legally.
So, and in this country, we have really low unemployment, record low unemployment, even now. Still, the jobs report that we just got was better than expected. So there's a labor shortage in this country in terms of the economic impact. So,
that's true.
Trump wants to bring in. Trump has said that he wants to give green cards to people who complete university in this country. So he's at least as Trump says it, he's okay with immigration. He just wants it to be done legally.
Exactly.
So if your problem, I just want to finish the point, then I'll let you guys go. If your problem with immigration at bottom is that it's illegal and disorderly, then your problem is the illegality. And therefore, you should be just against illegal actions by the states.
So let me answer why illegal immigration should be illegal. Right, first. That seems redundant, right? It's illegal immigration is when you come to this country outside of our laws for properly managing influx of new people. The reason why we made it illegal, I can give you a real-world example, which is Sweden, for instance. A lot of these countries are bringing a lot of immigrants in because of their low fertility rates. It's going to cause labor shortages and economic crises. In the 90s, Sweden brought in a bunch of, I believe it was Somali refugees. These refugees were not properly integrated, and this is not to say that they were forced to, it's that the country failed them. What ended up happening was the refugees that came in legally were told, best of luck, welcome to Sweden. So what did they do? They formed enclaves, incidentally, not intentionally. People want to live next to each other because it's familiar, it's easy, and if you're going to get a job and provide a service in your community, speaking the language makes it a lot easier. After 20 years, this resulted in a very serious cultural problem. The children of these refugees were considered Swedes, but in their home country, they were not considered Somali. They had no home to go to, but the Swedish natural native population would not give them jobs or opportunity. What happened? They created areas of the country that were I guess say, skeptical of the outside authority. This resulted in police getting attacked. It resulted in inter-gang conflict. There was a grenade thrown in I believe it was 2017, onto a balcony that killed an 8-year-old British tourist. The culture that grew in these communities was entirely separate and isolated from the Swedish community because they were not properly brought in. And so, why do we make it? We want more legal immigration. We want to make sure that when people do come here legally, because we do have a labor shortage and a fertility crisis, they come in a timely and orderly manner where we can track where they're going, which communities can handle them and which cannot. But when, let's say, even 1 million people come across the border unchecked and we don't know where they're going, this can result in, I should call it intercommunal violence. So you run into conflicts like whether or not the story of cats being eaten is true. You get the local population in Springfield, Ohio, were livid complaining about this. Or you end up with, when I went to Sweden, one of the most fascinating things that I saw was local Swedish guy, who I think was in his 20s, told me he was terrified to go to these neighborhoods because he would be murdered. And I thought that was nuts. And I freely walked about these neighborhoods with no issue. But there was still a fear of interracial and interreligious conflict because of the lack of assimilation and integration. So for economic reasons, for cultural reasons, and to preserve the moral traditions of our country, our democratic values we do think are important, we say, guys, one at a time.
Are you? Junie sent 50 Destiny gift memberships. Thank you. In YouTube chat. I love you, buddy. Malmo is not a neighborhood. That's a city.
are you willing to have a conversation with the Zionist destiny? Yeah, I'm willing to have a conversation with him. But he hasn't even responded to my video. I mean, he asked some questions, I gave some answers, and then I asked him some questions, and he hasn't responded. Did he? No, he did respond. He didn't. Well, I didn't see it. He didn't tag me in it. What did he say? I'll have to check into it. I'll have to get back to you then. There's no sense in debating Zionists about genocide, right? I mean, the thing is like I was just responding to his post, and the post did better than his post, and it proved my point. And
oh well, if it did better, I guess that proves it.
It's in his stream today. Okay. Are you willing to have a conversation?
I'm right this way. Please don't cheat.
Yeah, but so the problem there is, so there's a reason we have these laws. These laws are in place for some of the policy reasons that you've outlined, and the problem is when you violate that, you're both violating the law, but you're infringing on America's sovereignty, right? America passed these laws through our methods, democratically, and it's an expression of American will that says these amount of people can come here and no further, right? You can apply for, a green card under these conditions, but not the other conditions. You can apply for.
He's talking about assimilation, though.
But aren't you arguing that we need to increase legal immigration, right? His argument was, here's all the problems with immigration. You're like, well, if you only have a problem with illegal immigration, then we should just make more of it legal.
Well, what I'm presenting to him is that Donald Trump has said that there are a lot of benefits to legal immigration. That legal immigration would benefit the economy. Right. That we do want these people, right? So I take it as a given that you agree with Trump on that, and that you agree with his policy rationale on that. And so it seems to me like the biggest problem that people have here is they're cutting the line. They're doing something.
Well,
they're not
and they're not paying taxes. You have a two-tier justice system. Okay, we only have time for one more guy. So great job, T-Bone. Now the guy in the suit. I know the guy in the suit.
I just ignored the whole thing that Pisco explained
so
about the taxes.
So you got 1 minute, guys. This is our last one. I'm sorry we didn't get to you. We only have a limited amount of time, unless you guys want to do one more after this. But say your name, and you got your 1 minute start.
My name is Andy, and thanks so much for giving me the opportunity. I wanted to address what Tim said regarding the existential crisis of it all and the relations of the Alien Enemies Acts and whether or not that's being applied far enough with Venezuela. I'm going to make some seemingly wild claims because this stuff hasn't been reported yet. But as far as Venezuela's role, the World Social Forums on Migration were 8 global conferences since 2005 that planned the weaponization of migration against the West, sponsored by Venezuela and Cuba. They essentially organized and networked the NGOs and groups that facilitated the migration crisis.
By the way, in 2025, NGO is the new big. Like, growing up or earlier in time, anytime somebody was going to say big whatever, you knew that they were about to say some crazy shit. Big pharma, big oil, big tech, big whatever. It's always going to be followed by some retarded shit. NGOs are the new thing. Anytime somebody's like, the NGOs, they're always these, like, weird, shadowy organizations that are, like, all in cahoots with each other trying to take down or reestablish some new global order, but apparently they suck at it.
So whether or not immigrants are Venezuelan or not, since Venezuelan proxies, by the definition of the OAS and the U.S. Congress, helped facilitate the transfer of these immigrants, aren't all immigrants that came in as a result of a hybrid war effort alien enemies and enemy combatants?
No, by definition.
Take a seat, sir.
The Alien Enemies
I don't
Act,
think that's right.
No, the Alien Enemies Act allows you to designate like a foreign country, and then only citizens only. No shit, Sherlock. No, bro, do you think I just said that invasion isn't in the statute? What do you think I just said? Literally, do you think I just said invasion, physical incursion aren't in the statute? You think I haven't read the statute? No, yeah. So what I said was, what I said isn't contradicted by what you just said. What I'm saying is that you have to designate a country. That it's invasion. Oh my God. It does. Alien Enemies Act, you have to designate a country. So, and that country is, you can deport, detain, and send out people of that country, citizens of that country, whether they're here legally or not. A foreign entity, you have to designate one. So the proclamation that Trump issued only applies to Venezuelan nationals by definition. And so no, it doesn't apply for
I understand that. What I'm arguing is that other immigrants, by virtue of whether they're Venezuelan or not, are playing a part as weapons in Venezuela's...
I don't know if Pisco understands, or maybe he does. This guy is spinning crazy conspiratorial bullshit at him, that there's like some planned takedown of the United States from multiple foreign countries and NGOs to flood us with immigrants that are going to destroy us in like a coordinated invasion. I don't know if Pisco got that. That's how crazy this guy is or not.
Hybrid war.
So do you think that so then you'd have to designate every country as being part of the invasion? And
so then so be it.
Okay,
he'd say yes, yeah.
That's how the current proclamation says. So when Trump wants to say that the whole world is invading us and issue a proclamation to that effect, I'll address it.
I mean, I think the problem is that's so attenuated from the underlying,
100%.
right? Like, is that, and also it would swallow up every other part of immigration law. Like, basically, it would.
You could deport anyone here legally or illegally for any reason.
Right. So I think that as a result, I think that. I don't even know if we actually disagree that much.
No,
I guess we probably disagree on whether or not there is a predatory incursion.
Even Americans, white people, Christians, everyone's got to go. Nobody can stay.
But just be clear, if the Supreme Court were to uphold Trump's power under the Alien Enemies Act in this case, he could deport any Venezuelan
whether they're here legally or not.
Yep.
So if they're here legally, you can get rid of them too. The Alien Amnesty Act is a very powerful ability for the administration to get rid of any alien, and that it means any non-citizen, really.
I do think that, just real quick, we can interpret however the powers that be interpret. I mean, whoever's in charge interprets it the way they want, they enforce it the way they want. And I really do feel like whenever we have these debates, and I feel it's a lot on the culture war, I'm like, why, we're sitting here acting like we don't understand these laws all the time, because maybe we don't. 2 different sides, 3 different sides, different political factions, all saying, no, the law means this, no, the law means that. And it's really, at its core, my moral worldview would be this, no, my moral worldview would be this, and the law is less material to the argument.
Let's say that I cede the fact that, okay, it applies only to Venezuela. Well, then all of their proxies, which, again, you can demonstrate that these groups that facilitated migration are, under U.S. and OAS definitions, proxies of foreign enemy states. Shouldn't they be prosecuted and jailed under the...
for what crimes?
For Foreign Agent Registration Act. They're acting as proxies of foreign governments and
has
not
to be at
stating
direction,
it.
taking direction from them.
RICO,
Prove
since
it.
this is a hybrid war that carries all 12 dimensions of the hybrid war. I shared some research beforehand, and I hope you look
Yeah,
through
so
it. You can always
under
affect
FARA, you need to have so if you have specific evidence that they're failing to register and engage in some kind of lobbying effort, and you can point to specific individuals, I guess. But FARA also applies not just to other countries, but to foreign principles, and so that can include like foreign. One of the reasons why we should have the Burisma conversation at some point is that Burisma would be considered a foreign principle under FARA, and that's one of the issues of the Hunter Biden situation. And so I can see a cognizable case if you can show me the evidence that the specific individuals involved should
it's not.
failing to register.
It's not been reported yet, but trust me.
Citizensintelligence.net has a
There you go.
downloadable PDF with 600
Ooh.
sources, about 100.
Oh, citizensintelligence.net. Let me open this on my other monitor first. Keeping Americans informed. Ooh, and it's even got the same abbreviation as the CIA. Oh my God. United Socialist Party of Venezuela, a hybrid threat to the United States. From Dr. Ariel Sheen, Director of Operations, Citizens Intelligence Agency. Ooh. 120-page PDF. God damn. International Castro Chavismo Data. Oh, shit. A collaborative effort between state actors, Cuba and Venezuela, foreign state actors, and NGOs to subvert democratic governments abroad. Castro Chavismo leaves numerous traces of its existence. While their efforts are frequently commented upon in indictments and pacts written by government agencies or articles written by NGOs, there are a few instances where they are cataloged. Holy shit. Careful.
50 pages long, and it's free along with network maps.
Can I ask about the moon necklace?
It's a pig tusk from Vanuatu. Pigs are considered sacred there because this is like mining your own pig coin. The more they curl, the more they're worth. So they pull the
awesome.
top teeth so the pig tusks continue to curl. And if you got a pig with a triple curled tusk, it costs somebody a pig just to take a look at it. There's a YouTube thing called Vanuatu's Piggy Bank that's like a 15-minute Australian
This guy
special.
is insane. Okay, all right, get off stage. Wait, you're almost done. The guy with the sunglasses in the back. Well, you've been looking at me all night. Come on down. What do you do?
Took the microphone already, though.
I know, but I'll just hand him mine. What do you just come up here real quick? What you've been looking at me creepy? You in the so one guy with sunglasses. Hurry up. We only got 1 minute. I can already tell this guy's gonna be weird. Here, take my mic. Here, take my mic. What do you want to say? Stand back there.
I do have a quick question about
You have one question.
okay, constitutional rights. I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, but if an illegal immigrant were to come here, would they have the constitutional right, like Second Amendment rights to buy firearms?
I think they do, yeah. The Constitution is very clear when it refers to persons and when it refers to citizens. So we had this conversation. I think you agreed with it.
I mean, and it could be an issue of how they've changed. Like when the 14th Amendment was made, it draws a distinction between the rights of persons and the rights of citizens. But I would also add that creates an abortion issue for you if you do accept that argument.
I'm not actually sure either of you are right about this.
Wait, so for example, it says the security of so the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, and that's the people. And other parts in the Constitution, including the requirements for president, to run for president, the requirements for Congress, it refers to U.S. citizens, and in the privileges or immunities clause of the 14th Amendment, which is what he was referencing, it refers to.
Okay, I hear all that, right? Clearly, under current law, we have a lot of restrictions on aliens and what they can say that would infringe the First Amendment if applied to citizens.
I think that's up to. Well, I don't know about
espousing support for terrorism is sufficient to get you your.
Well, that's being litigated right now with the Mahmoud Khalil case.
Right, but I think you're going to lose.
Well, we'll see.
But my point being that if that's true, then I think you could say that an illegal alien could not be imprisoned for a crime that would not be a crime for an American citizen, but they could be deported.
Interesting.
Right? You could make it a condition of their residence.
One of the big problems with having this carve out and saying that rights don't apply to illegal immigrants, then the rule, that exception swallows the rule. And now all of a sudden you're going to be saying, and I hope you don't say it, is are you allowed to search
without a warrant and an unreasonable search, let's say, of an illegal immigrant's house because they don't have Fourth Amendment rights?
No.
No, but that's a right of the person against the government doing something to them, right? In the same way that you can't imprison in the same reason that you can't imprison an illegal alien without due process, but you can deport them.
Yeah, but the Second Amendment has been interpreted by the Supreme Court to the delight of gun owners to be an individual right, right? That's the big win in Heller, is it's not...
Holy shit. Imagine if they did do that. Abrego Garcia does a fucking GoFundMe and they raise $5 million and he just buys a gold card.
Interpreted by the Supreme Court to the delight of gun owners to be an individual right, right? That's the big win in Heller, is it's not just a militia-based right. It's an individual right to bear arms.
But so is the right to free speech.
So is the right to free speech is as well. And so if there's an individual rights component to the Fourth Amendment that protects you against unreasonable searches and seizures, surely, and it applies to people and persons, and there's a distinction between persons and citizens in the Constitution, we should read that into the Second Amendment.
But I don't think that the analogy doesn't work, because the distinction that we're always talking about, these First Amendment cases and in the Second Amendment cases, is this criminal punishment versus removal.
Correct.
And I don't think that is even in the ballpark of what's going on in the Fourth Amendment, right?
So do you think, but hang on a second, so we're not just talking about criminal punishment when it comes to immigration matters. So the First Amendment, for example, applies to if you want to get a liquor license and you're a Trump supporter, imagine that the administration says something, or the Democrat administration says, you don't get a liquor license if you support Trump. Or you guys complain about the IRS, right? So let's say that the IRS institutes a policy that says something like, we're only going to do IRS audits of Trump supporters, right? Let's say they instituted that policy. So they didn't do that policy. They didn't. But let's assume...
De facto, that's
guys,
what...
Just
what
chill.
Biden
Take the hypo, right, bro? Don't be less mad, all right? Jesus Christ.
All right, let him finish, guys. We're about to end this. Let Pisco finish.
That's a situation in which an investigation isn't a criminal punishment. An investigation isn't a criminal punishment. You know, the denial of a license isn't a criminal punishment. But these rights still have, First Amendment, for example, still has purchase, even though it's not a criminal punishment. The Second Amendment, there could be some gun legislation that doesn't apply in the criminal context. It would still have purchase.
I want to just add, I do think I would like to hear a clear answer from the courts on this. Does the people mean the body of citizens, or does it mean all persons? Because when they did draft the 14th Amendment, it draws a distinction between what makes someone a citizen and what rights a person has. They're distinct.
I'm pretty sure non-citizens are protected under the 14th Amendment under Supreme Court precedent.
If it wasn't that way, that you could, as a punishment, torture non-citizens.
And I think that's right. I mean,
oh gosh.
Anyway.
All right, we're going to end on that, guys. Thank you guys so much. Give it up for yourselves. This was the first pilot episode of the Culture War Live. Give it up for Pisco, or I don't know if Raymond would say so. Give it up for Will Chamberlain, our debaters, and of course Tim.
I'm here to say goodbye to everyone. It was a beautiful show. Shout out Tim. Fucking rock and rolling. Yeah. Culture War IRL. Pisco, the gentleman from the left. We came on the show. We appreciate you, sir. Yeah, and he has a couple guys in the crowd, and one of the gentlemen came up there, Mr. Cash, so that's fucking rock and rolling. We love that. Next time, we want more lefties. If you're watching, feel free to come in. It's a good time.
Absolutely.
The better debates, the better, right?
Yes, everybody, thank you all so much for being here. Share the show with everyone. Smash the like button, subscribe. You can follow me on X and Instagram at TimCast. You guys want a quick shout-outs for who you are, where they can find you?
Primetime99 Alex Stein, Pip on a Blam, on Twitter, X, YouTube. Follow Primetime with Alex Stein.
Will Chamberlain at Will Chamberlain on Twitter, and the Article 3 Project, article3project.org.
Pisco Liddy on Twitter, and Pisco's Hour on YouTube.
This was fucking awesome.
This was fun.
Dude, it was good time.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for coming.
Jesus. Okay, I got my show at the end in like 45 minutes. We'll watch this content cop thing tomorrow. Oh, Aspen slop.
JD Vance says India versus Pakistan is none of our business. This is the way I think a lot of people feel about it. Let me see if I can find it.
India has its gripes with Pakistan. Pakistan has responded to India. What we can do is try to encourage these folks to de-escalate a little bit, but we're not going to get involved in the middle of a war that's fundamentally none of our business.
We're going to cover.
Wow, bro. So epic.
Holy fuck. Jesus.
Cover this now from India and from Pakistan.
Jesus.
CNN's Nick Robertson is in Islamabad, Pakistan.
Yes.
CNN's Matthew Chance is in New Delhi. Nick, you visited the line of control recently. You hiked into Kashmir. What is the situation on the ground right now?
Yeah, right now along that line of control, there's intense shelling. People are beginning to flee the border area, an exodus,
Yeah, I
as
bet.
some of the locals there are describing it. So that's
I'll be
pretty
getting the
hot,
fuck
pretty
out of there as
active.
well.
JD Vance describing it as a war. That's going to sound right to those people here. In the rest of Pakistan, 29 drones over the past 24 hours came over from India.
It's kind of funny if you think about it. Now you have to stretch and apply your brain a little bit to see why they're retarded, and they probably wouldn't immediately get it. But one of the biggest reasons why people like Aspen Slurp would say that we should never be involved or do anything related to Russia and Ukraine is because of the threat of some kind of nuclear war, escalation to World War III, right? Well, imagine if there was some way that the United States could be involved or could, I don't know, mediate or do something to mitigate the chances of World War III or nuclear winter or whatever because of India and Pakistan. Like, there is no advocation there. The United States should be doing something to lower the temperature. It's like, no, don't get involved. Don't do anything. No involved. Nothing. Don't involve at all. Don't do anything. Nothing. It's like, okay, so even if the U.S. could improve the situation, we don't have to like send fucking bombs there, right? There's like other stuff we could do to move the parties towards some kind of peaceful resolution. No, but whatever.
They went to Karachi in the south. 4 soldiers, 4 military personnel injured in Lahore. That's the massive city, 30 million people, just 13 miles from the border with India.
Yeah.
And just down the road from here, 10 miles away in Rawalpindi, where there's a massive cricket tournament going on, foreign minister saying the stadium there was hit by one of those incoming missiles. The country's on edge. The schools are closed.
You tell me the stadium was hit by a missile? I mean, couldn't you like? Wouldn't that be like 100 people would get killed if it was a stadium that got hit by a missile?
Here in Islamabad tomorrow, major exam across the country are being cancelled in Punjab, along the east of the country here, border with India, of course.
It was empty?
Schools all closed there. So there's a real feeling that this is rolling on in a way that the country has not experienced before. These drones, this is different. And as far as the sort of cross-border that Pakistani officials here are telling us about what the Indian government is saying on their side, they're saying India is mounting a phantom defense. So not just drones, not just rockets, not just artillery, not just gunfire. The war of words ratcheting up too.
And Matthew, Indian officials.
This isn't even what the Indian news is saying. Why is CNN even saying this? CNN was just saying, they said, hey, we bombed terrorist installations and that's it. We're not going to bomb anybody else.
Schools.
Indian news is saying, why is CNN even saying this? CNN was just saying, they said, hey, we bombed terrorist installations and that's it. We're not going to bomb anybody else.
Schools.
I watched this for hours.
I don't even.
Just south of Kashmir.
I'm too retarded.
Will be closed.
Indian news is fake news propaganda.
The next 3 days. It sounds as
And
though India and
CNN
Pakistan
isn't?
are prepared for the possibility of even more escalation.
Yeah, I don't know.
Holy fucking got him, bro.
Yeah, it does sound like that. You're right. Schools in Punjab are going to be closed for the next few days, as are schools in Indian-administered Kashmir and universities
Why would CNN lie? Because CNN is owned by the people that own a lot of the companies that would stand to gain if the United States got involved in one of these conflicts.
Yeah, that's
and
who's driving
I think
this.
that media plays an active role in trying to escalate conflicts and keep the American people on their toes and worried about this stuff all the time. And so,
yeah, the real question is, if Biden let the whole October 7th happen, and if Biden let Russia-Ukraine happen, what did Trump do to make India and Pakistan start fighting each other? Biden should just be coming out every day and be like, they weren't fighting when I was president. Just saying. Didn't happen when old Biden was in office, but you know.
So, like, for example, I think that really any time that there's any conflict, you think about it. So there's an ulterior motive and then there's a direct motive, where the direct motive is that if they can create a state of panic, more people will watch the media because they're more afraid to know what's going to happen, right?
Wow.
So like they're going to be paying attention more because they want to know what's going to happen next.
Wow.
So that's the immediate gain, and then the secondary
sophisticated
gain is
understanding
that
of our
I
media
think that
environment.
almost all mainstream media, if not all mainstream media,
is captured.
Operates as a vehicle to
Military-industrial
escalate
complex.
tensions and dial up the American people's rhetoric for different types of overseas wars in order to indirectly fund the military-industrial complex.
Yes,
because the people that own these companies are the same people that have ownership and have friends that have ownership in these military companies. So that's what I think is happening. Straight up. Like, I do.
Also, the Indian government has cancelled all leave for civil servants.
You already watched 2 hours of Indian propaganda and based your whole view on that?
Uh-oh.
Bro.
Take him out, Asman. Don't let him get away with that.
The Pakistani defense minister used as a frame of reference to look on social media for the images of the planes that were shot down, and the images that were being posted were pictures from Ukraine.
That's pretty embarrassing. Donald Trump, in an interview, believed in MS Paint numbering over a guy's hands, that they were MS-13 tattoos. So, I mean,
how does that, like, we literally watched the interview with them. If you came out of that interview thinking that they're not lying, you're delusional. You're totally fucking delusional if you think they weren't lying in that interview. Yeah, Pakistan just shared audio from downed planes. You can look it up. So they shared audio, and we're supposed to assume that all of that means that these planes were crashed and everything. Really?
Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, I guess. I don't have too much of a frame of reference for other countries conducting warfare, but I don't think countries would generally be in the business of lying about shooting down enemy stuff, because if you lie about it and you get caught doing it, I think it's going to look really bad. You're going to look like incompetent and retarded as fuck. But maybe the media works a little bit differently over in India, Pakistan land. Like, or if you're going to lie, I think you would lie in more clever ways. Like, you wouldn't just say, you wouldn't just say, like, somebody brought up that Russia does it all the time. Like, you wouldn't just say that, oh no, that never happened. You'd be like, oh, what was that one huge ship they had in the Black Sea that fucking Ukraine managed to shoot down, or not shoot down, but sink from shore? And Russia was like, well, you know, we were doing maintenance or whatever. We decided to scuttle that ship, LOL. But maybe for Pakistan and India, maybe they do. I don't follow them as closely. Maybe it's different over there.
So there's no video, right? So every single thing that happens is recorded from 7 different ways, except for this. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm not going to believe this, especially after they've already had a history of making shit up. How is it that they're bombing civilians, but notable terrorists just happen to die? What is this? How can anybody believe this for even a second?
In the country in preparation for what it says is a potential emergency response. And so that all gives that impression that the country is sort of bracing itself for further escalation. Within the past couple of hours, you mentioned it already, but you know, we were hearing these reports. We can't go there ourselves, unlike Nick over there in Pakistan. But we're hearing reports that the city of Jammu, which is one of the main cities in Indian-administered Kashmir, has been plunged into darkness. There have been explosions in the skies over the city. It's not quite clear what exactly has been going on, but there have been repeated drone strikes and aerial strikes against locations inside India, at least reported by the Indian authorities. India has since then accused Pakistan of striking 2 military bases in Indian-administered Kashmir and one in that neighbouring state of Punjab as well. And so, yeah, you're right. Look, tensions incredibly high on both sides of the border, Jake.
Back with more in our world lead and the conflict between India and Pakistan. And joining us now, Pakistan's ambassador to the U.S.
What's this here? Indian mainstream media, CNN 2000X amplified. Don't believe shit they say. First Post is probably the only legit source of news from the media. Well, I mean, I don't believe, like, the thing is that, well, number one, that was the thing I was listening to. And number two, like, I'm going to listen to what these people are saying and then base, things off of that. I think that's the smart thing to do. That's what a normal person would do. So, yeah, India has evidence when they publish and Pakistan makes shit up. Yeah, it sure seems like they're making shit up.
Mr. Carter, can you tell me my opinion? Nope,
Mr.
I haven't researched this at all yet. Well, tomorrow we will, after we watch the Content Cop on iDubbbz.
Ambassador, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. So U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio spoke separately with top officials from India and top officials from Pakistan today. The State Department says Rubio told your Prime Minister, Mohammad Shehbaz Sharif, to, quote, take concrete steps to end any support for terrorist groups. This comes as India,
thank God,
is accusing Pakistan of harboring terrorist groups. What is your response?
Well, in this heavily securitized history of this region, where the two countries have actually fought 3 wars, and the history has expressed itself in a security idiom. Presumptuous pretexts like the Pahalgam attack having taken place from Pakistan without a shred of evidence, I think is preposterous. And nobody in this situation, in this region, which has a nuclear capability, wants to set a template of going for attacks, aggression, provocative aggression that has been taking place over past 48 hours, actually more, started by India, escalated by India. It's the third night. Pakistan has exercised its right to self-defense, but basically this is not the kind of simplified version of the security situation in the region.
Sure. I mean, how does nobody ask the question, if they were only attacking civilians, why did they just happen to kill a bunch of noteworthy terrorists? Because I feel like that's a really good question. Like, how does this work?
Region that I think the world wants to see.
That kid who said he was going to bomb Pakistan when he grows up finally grew up. Shut the fuck up.
So whatever has to be said has to be supported by evidence.
Yeah.
And Pakistan at the leadership level has certainly offered to conduct impartial inquiry, independent inquiry, neutral inquiry, and we would be participating in it.
So Pakistan has called for this investigation, as you note. There's this little-known militant group or terrorist group called the Resistance Front. It's linked to Islamist extremists, Lashkar-e-Taiba, and this group claimed responsibility for the attack on social media, though local reports also say they walked it back. Do you know which group was responsible for the terrorist attack that killed 26 tourists on April 22nd?
Who knows?
In the Indian-controlled part of Kashmir.
Yeah, that's an.
Do either of these sides like work with terrorist groups as part of their actual official military conduct, or I truly have no idea.
Well,
That's
the
a good
26 tourists killed in the Indian illegally occupied part of Jammu and Kashmir were basically an attack that took place 230 kilometers plus
Don't ask
from
this
the
chat
line
anything,
of control.
bro.
So we
He's saying it was
That's fair.
illegally occupied, as if that's a justification for asking somebody their religion and then shooting them if they give the wrong answer. It doesn't really matter whether it's illegally occupied or not. The civilians there weren't the ones committing the crime.
It super matters if things are illegally occupied, because legitimate claims to territory is a big basis by which people can invoke things like war crimes or who's responsible for what, or Kashmir, there's like 6 disputed territories, I think, between these 3 countries. And people are always going to be careful. Like, you're never... when an Israeli talks about the West Bank, they don't say the West Bank, or Zionists, no, they say Judea and Samaria. Or when Palestinians talk about it, they'll say like the occupied West Bank or the occupied territories. And I'm sure when Pakistan, I'm sure when India, and I'm sure when China talks about any of these regions, anytime they talk about the other people in some area, they'll call it illegally occupied. And anytime they talk about them, occupying some place, they'll refer to it as such. Like, these claims of ownership are incredibly important to people.
You're targeting civilians and then killing them, like, systematically based off of religious grounds. How is this not just something that you can't immediately condemn? How is this hard to just immediately condemn this and say this was horrible, it was bad, we're working to try to make it not happen? It's insane.
Asking for inquiry because we want to know. Why would we know? Had we known, why would we ask for inquiry? And just going ahead and exercising provocative aggression on an arch rival is something that Pakistan has bearing with a degree of restraint thus far. But as we were pointing out,
they're exercising aggression against an arch rival. These are you killed 26 civilians, not you, but like, what is this? Like an arch rival? Is this Pokemon? Like, what's going on? Note how he doesn't answer the question asked. Yeah.
That we would not be the ones going for escalation. India did. Now the responsibility for de-escalation is on India.
Well, I don't think so. I think that Pakistan knew that these things were happening and they let them happen. This is what This is what seems like what's happening, right? I mean, like, I don't see how you can't come to this conclusion. This is the country that housed Osama bin Laden. They had multiple other, like fucking MVP, career terrorists there. They get bombed, and then after they get bombed, after this terrorist attack, then you have the main generals from the Pakistani army that are at the funeral for these killed, in some way murdered, terrorists. Why would that even happen if they weren't working hand in hand and they didn't know each other? It's so obvious and so blatant that it's amazing that they would even try to come on and defend it.
Jesus. How much do you think I have to drink? I need this level of confidence. Well, hold on. I'm so sorry. It could be that Asmongold has extensively studied, or at least done some kind of preliminary research into this region, and that's why he's able to speak so confidently about what these people should be saying or shouldn't be saying on TV. I shouldn't make that assumption. Yeah, my bad.
I feel like it would be better just to not make any comments. Like, that's what I would do if I were them. Just don't say anything. That'd be the smart thing to do.
Constraints on restraint. Pakistan reserves the right to respond back. There is enough pressure from our public opinion on the government to respond, and respond we will, because this aggression has been going on now for too long.
Earlier today, CNN interviewed the Indian ambassador to the United States. Take a listen to what he said.
when we did this day before yesterday, our assumption was that we have completed what we set out to do ourselves vis-a-vis the terrorist. We, from our perspective, had brought a certain finality to it, but it was, of course, subject to whether Pakistan has brought finality to it. Pakistan chose to escalate it further. Now, it's duty-bound for us to respond to that.
They say they were responding to the terrorist attack.
No, there is no situation like responding to the terrorist attack by attacking a sovereign country. Is that a template that the international community would want to set going forward without any...
If you have terrorists there and you're working with them and the military is, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
What they say. They say
yes. I mean, they can say what they want to say, but attacking Pakistan and expecting us to sit back like sacrificial lambs and not responding is something that they shouldn't even have thought of. And whatever is being done, it's the third night, has on each night been initiated by India. And Pakistan has only been responding in self-defense. Our civilians have been killed, 30 plus civilians, 57 plus casualties. What kind of terrorist infrastructure they were attacking? Civilian lives.
So there were 30 something civilian dies, people that died, but then 50 something total deaths. Well, what about the other ones? Who were they?
Have been lost. Why did they attack a cricket field? Where is the terrorist infrastructure expected in a cricket field?
Is there any conversation going on at all between India and Pakistan right now?
Yeah, 30 civilians and 57 casualties. Who are the remaining 27? Yeah, like, what is this? Like,
I think there have been contacts at the level of NSAs, but then this escalation both...
Okay, we'll get there. All right, we're doing anything else on Kick? Kick.com/Destiny. We'll be starting in like 30 minutes at 7 o'clock sharp, because that's what we do. Okay, Kick.com/Destiny. We'll be there. Be careful. See you soon. Okay. In about an hour and a half? No. In like 30 minutes. Fuck you.